Hello, everyone. Start letting people in. Yeah, I opened a little bit early today. There we go, Monica. All right. Hi, Monica. Nice to see you. And did you have a good celebration, Monica? Hi, Gerard.
Hi, how are you, Diana?
Good, and you?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
All right, guys, get into the chat as I keep enabling students or admitting students. And meanwhile, I have signed into VDI for those that are using that. Okay. Hey, where's everyone else? This is going to be a private Monica Gerard class. That's strange.
Looking that way, huh?
This is usually a very timely group. Out. 2 people can't make it, but there's everyone else. And one person is having her daughter's wedding, so
Oh,
I know, a lot going on. Springtime. Well, how about I'm signing into, oh, there's someone else. Signing into oh, there's Andrea. Andrea. Wow, the VDI is going really slow. Hi, Andrea.
Okay, I'm just checking in so that you have my attendance.
I hear that. I hear that. Happy wedding. Happy wedding.
Thank you. And right after the wedding, I head up to Mammoth. I'm going to bring my desktop because my son and his wife are having the first grandchild. So
Oh my goodness,
I'll be-
grandchild's weddings.
it's a busy month. It's amazing.
Well, good for you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
time.
Okay, I will be back on in probably an hour and a half.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Hi, Amber.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a beautiful day.
You know, I've been teaching and observing students, other teachers teaching, doing some evaluation. So I have not experienced the beautiful day yet. So thank you for telling me that.
You
There's
should look
days-
outside.
And I was going to go for a walk with a friend this morning before I started teaching, and then they had a problem. So I said, oh, instead of walking out, park. What a bad idea. So I should have forced myself to go out, right? Anyway, yep. That's the way to go. Here's some more people. Here they come. All right. So Anna, there we go. Hi, Anna. I don't know if you can hear me yet, though. Nope, Anna can't hear me yet. There you go. Hi, Anna. How are you? So go to the chat, everyone, and sign in. And given the roster and that 3 students today can't attend, there might not be many more coming. So I might get going, but that's what I'm going to do is share the page. I'm having this so interesting. Let me just tell you what's happening to me. This is what's happening to Padlet to me in this browser. Like I'm not seeing the images, but I was checking out what you guys posted on my phone and it works just fine. But I don't know why. Oh, Firefox is doing this, so give me a second. And it did this to me last Friday for the digital design techniques class too. So I think I need to clean the cache habit. I don't know why it's not picking them up. So maybe let me open a different browser for a second. And there we go. Hi, Jessica. Nice to see you. I am trying to share my browser with the Padlet and it's not resolving. There we go. There we go. So on this other browser, it's working. So I need to go and clean up that cache, whatever happened to the other browser isn't big enough. So anyway, hi, now I can focus again on you guys who arrived. Hi, Jessica and Anna. And go ahead and head over to the chat and give me a little hey ho, get the class a little good, well, not morning, good afternoon. And
Hey, Diana, can you put the Padlet link in the chat?
yes, of course.
I for some reason mine keeps defaulting to the Photoshop class from last session.
That's fine. Okay, so let me put it in there right now.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, and actually it's a good reminder. When I show Padlet, I always want to post it in there to make sure in case someone forgot to do their postings to catch up with it. So thanks for reminding me to post the link. And Anna had asked me something last week that I wanted to refer to, but anyway, not sure if someone's going to make it today, but oh, someone else is coming in. Let me let him in. There we go. And so here's something that Saul is working with, and he's actually, these are, you know, real things he's working on. So it doesn't necessarily apply to any particular assignment that we did, but then he still shows me his work. He shows me his layers and stuff like that, and then I get a chance to give him a feedback. And notice that in this case, he has created different layers. And if he was here, I would want to ask him why, like what's the difference between them, right? As opposed to keeping groups in one layer. So anyway, that's just something that if he comes back, I'll ask, but it's just a different way of working. Thank you for all these marvelous stars that you're all sharing. All right. Just like a simple tool like the star with a couple of different changes and adaptations, and look at what everyone can do. What I like doing is I collect everyone's, when I had people submit their files, I would collect them all and then post a handout with all the stars. But I'm going to see if I can pick it up from these little screenshots and do that with you guys, because you know, when you put them all together, it's like, oh wow, look over, you know, what we're doing. I like that you gave an example here, Monica, of using your library to be able to put in not only the colors that you put here, but then the gradients that wouldn't come in as colors but as artwork itself. So, and then you use those colors to change that. So thanks for pointing that out. Nice stars. Look at a lot of creativity here. I mean, this for some reason, some of these make me think of, you know, the explosions in comic books, you know, it's like bing, bang, crash, boom, and boof. These are perfect for that. And maybe it's a bit the bright colors, but sometimes I see star. Here I'm seeing like boom, bang, crash. I don't know. Do you see that too, or is it just me? It's just how different things look just because of color, right? Gives them a whole. Jessica, do you see that, or were you thinking of gentle, tranquil stars here when you did these? Let me see. I don't know if Jessica, can you hear me?
I guess we're just making colors.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know. It's like sometimes it's around Christmas time. I get a whole lot of blue and silver and white. You know, we subconsciously do things, or green and red. And then there's all these different, spring is more colorful. I noticed that over the years as I teach in different seasons that people apply different colors to what they're feeling, right? Anyway, yours make me feel alive, you know? Anyway, cool. Thank you guys. And then I just wanted to speak for a minute to this question where Anna was, just to be clear, Anna, did you first draw each one of these parts? Is this something you made yourself and then you're trying to add one more and this time it wasn't working? Or see, this is the outline, by the way, the path of one more of these legs, but I just need to understand where it was coming from to see why it wasn't working.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I got to this point, but I uploaded an image of a stamp I had made, and then I think I used something called image trace.
Okay, we're gonna use that, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And so this was
and then-
created from a trace, but it was missing a leg.
Yeah. Well, it had a leg, but I didn't like it, so I copied
Ah.
the one next to it and flipped it over.
Okay,
But then I was confused as to why it wasn't.
but it
cut
wasn't
out
filled,
of the
and
shape.
it's
Yeah.
possible, since I can't tell what happened there, have you just attempted to do a white fill on it? I mean,
I did, but
and it
but then
it wasn't.
I noticed it was different from the other legs. So
So
It's-
we're going to be talking about trace and what she did, the image trace, and what it did or not do. But for the most part, yeah, it should have been easy then to pick one of these and flip it over, right? So today we're going to be talking a little bit about flipping and copying, in fact, and creating elements with repetitive objects and stuff like that. So maybe open this one up on your computer, and if we get to the place where you can share a little bit, maybe you can do some hands-on help to see what's actually happening there, that it's not a shape that can be filled. There's a tiny possibility that it might be an open path, but then it would still fill, even though not so well. So I would have to like see it. So maybe later I can ask you to share and see how we can
Okay.
troubleshoot it, because
My-
it seems to be okay and it's a path, so it should be fillable. So at this point it's hard to diagnose. Okay.
okay, I think my
Um,
internet connection is a bit unstable today, so
Spotty?
I don't know
Okay.
if I'll be able to do that. But
Okay, that's fine. Otherwise, just consider, turning this little eyeball off. Don't get rid of it, but leave it there, and then try with another leg, right? And see if you can just duplicate the layer instead of like going from here. Just sit over here and do a right click and see if you can just do a duplicate that way, and then drag it out. Well, today, as I said, we're gonna be talking about flipping and moving objects. So if that's the issue, you'll have it figured out. But I have a feeling there's something else going on there if it's not self-filling. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So thank you, everyone else. Look at these cute little bunny rabbits. Here I'm doing like any old boring hearts, and Moni's like, let me do something else. So nice. Thank you, Moni. And okay. And then all the hearts that we're all attempting and trying out, and shapes. Okay, so thank you so much for putting in your stuff that's beyond and above. Oh, there we go, Monica. Okay, so she's putting, your she wasn't here the other day, so thank you, Monica, for watching the videos and doing the work. That's like, yay, let's imitate her in the future. And so now we can continue forward, right? Because she's not behind, and that's something I would always hope you do. Now I'm going to stop this share because I'm not going to use this browser anymore. It's just that this one showed my Padlet and the other one isn't showing it. And I'm going to close that because I can't have too many things open at a time. And then I'm going to reshare. Remind me again before I do the VDI. Is anyone left here that's on VDI? I believe maybe Jessica. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I'm VDI.
You're on VDI, yeah. Okay, and that's it, right? Everyone else is not using VDI. The other person who's using VDI isn't here today. We've got some events going on in people's lives, so they let me know. So that's fine. I do appreciate when people just warn me if they're going to be here or not. It helps to have an idea of what I'm going to be doing in class. In fact, because sometimes I'll think, oh, I'll do this because this person said whatever, and then they let me know they're not going to be here. I might just, change file or change plan, because I really do try to that what I teach be useful to everyone. All right. But when I target something for one person, then if you tell me you're not going to be here, I will untarget that. Okay. So we did end up using Bridge last week, didn't we? In Illustrator, I said, hey, you all seem to be using it, so we opened up Bridge, right? And if so, please go to your Illustrator files. If you forgot or don't know how to get here, let me know. But if you use bridge and closed it, and when you open it up, it always goes and points to the last thing you use. So unless you use it again, it should be pointing to the right place. Now, some of you are in my digital design techniques, so you would have both. So go ahead and switch to these. So we're going to be, first, today we're going to be doing some work with simple shapes. And as I said, flipping, sharing, there's all these different little tricks that you can do to create more complicated items. But then we're going to continue. And then with those simple items, we're going to continue and work on something. This would seem like a simple item. I don't know if it's sharing well. But in fact, this is a compound path. So we're going to talk about compound paths and what is it and how do you create those instead of just having to make a shape that goes in and out, which when I do this, does it share for you guys? The huge size? Okay, so instead of going and designing something like this, we actually designed a simple thing in a circle and then just kind of knock one piece out of the other, and same with a fire flame and stuff like that. Joining elements, you do a lightning and a cloud, and then you get that. So how do you create different objects from that? Now, one thing that I tried to do each class is assign an image that I want them to be completing. And sometimes people take 1 day to do it. Sometimes people take 3 weeks to do it, right? So I've used different ones that are here. And if you really want to challenge yourself, I'm not going to propose it because some of you have already done it. But for those of you who've never done this image, I want to challenge you to try to recreate one of these houses. I find that a lot of what I'm going to be teaching you between the last few days and today, you would be able to create this. Like there's nothing else you need to know than what I'm going to teach you to recreate this, any of these little houses. So for those of you who have not used that image before, I encourage you to try that one. And last class, we worked on this donut, truck carrying donuts, and we recreated this in class. So I'm not going to use it again, but if you haven't done this one, some of you are repeating the class, others are not, then this was a nice challenge, and there's many different things we learned from it. Actually, this one. And so today, for those of you who worked on those images already, I have these two here that I brought up, and this is the rocket that we used on even another class, and this was cool too. But this was actually relatively simplish, and it has a little mini gradient here. So for those of you who want to have a challenge, but not, you're not feeling like you're up to the little houses, that's a good one. Anyway, so choose one of these images, and here's the one that I wanted to say. I don't want to share. It seems like it only shares a little bit of the image. Are you seeing just the little bottom of the mountains, but no sun when I share this? But yeah, when I make it big, it kind of crops out. So let me see if I can make it big in a different way. No, it's not going to make any difference. Anyway, you guys do your little select and hit the space bar of your own to see. So this one's not necessarily complicated. In fact, was it Moni, you made the whole farm scene or stuff like that. So it's similar to that. But then this one has a lot of curves. And if you want to not just do something similar to it, like that, there's a challenge, which is do something similar to it, but more challenging is do this exact thing, because that would maybe really help you begin to control those curves. You know what I mean? Because the question here wouldn't be to be creative. Well, put your own colors if you want, but to actually see if you can take command of that tool. So if you're someone who's like, I'm never going to draw too much, then, you don't need to go to this challenge. But those of you who are looking to really create your own imagery, go ahead and challenge yourself to try to actually recreate this little character and these guys. I have a pen tool exercise that I can assign to you to work a bit on this, but and it's actually there in the handouts that you can use if you need a bit more reminders of how to use the tool in different situations. But anyway, this would give you a lot of practice on that. So here's what I mean. I'm going to keep teaching you individual tasks and things, tools that you will have under your belt to be able to create these shapes. But it's on you to take one of all of these that I've shown you and try to recreate them and post them in the Padlets and come up with what is and isn't working and ask me things like that. A little bit later in the class, we're going to choose one of them and recreate it ourselves. But right now, I just want to know that you're welcome to work on some of these. And in particular, this one, I want the exact same thing because of the curve challenge. On all the rest, you can do similar or imitations of, or variations of, or improvements upon. This is another one that works well. I love these little birds. This one works well for curve kind of challenge. All right. Anyway, back to what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to start with any one of these images. We're actually going to start from 0. So I was just showing that to make sure that everyone was in. And by the way, I noticed so you just joined us, and I was talking about your logo. So give me a second to share that again, because I have a question for you, but I have to open up a different browser. So let me share this browser. Here we go. And so I was, you know how I always appreciate that you post your images with the panel here kind of informing me what's going on. And I had a question for you. Saul, by the way, are you hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay, great. So I noticed that you took on creating many different layers, which is one way of working. It's not right or wrong, but I want to understand, since you've been doing this for a while, what's your experience and when do you choose to use a different layer and why? Like, what are you making these versus grouping them?
Yeah, first of all, like the track, when I'm creating the track, every single object that I make, I put them on the folder and make it as a group. That way I have the group so you can see it through it. So like every single text or oval or oval or any other object that I create, I make it as a separate. That way I know which one is and where to go where.
Okay, as a separate layer is what you're saying. Okay, so I mean, and that's not the traditional way to use layers, but it is definitely a possible way to use layers, because one thing that you can see here, see how there's little locks? I haven't shown you that feature, but like I said, every little bit, like one of these is the truck, right?
Right.
And if you see there, that's the truck. You know, you don't have them labeled, it might be helpful, but then there's the, I don't see this little round green one anywhere.
Yeah,
and
I can get
because
to that one in a little bit. I was working on it.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of designs that I've been, working on.
Okay.
And I was just trying to kind of organize. I forgot to put the text exactly what it is.
No, that's fine. But notice that we don't see it because the eyeball is off, right? But
Yeah,
that piece is there, right? So
there
we're
is
only,
Yeah, the only reason you don't see it is because I don't want to get into that because I'm working on something else.
I hear you. I hear you. So here's my thing. This would be an option if you're working on something else to have it at a different layer. That makes sense. But the elements that are part of the same one, when you put them in different layers, sometimes it becomes harder to handle things on 2 different layers at the same time. On the other hand, that's why layers are good when you do want to handle things separately, right? So a typical use of layers might be, I'm going to use this one, say layer 5 is going to have all my text and anything that has to do with my text tools. And then my other layer is going to be where I put my graphics and stuff like that. And so then you can like lock the one that you're sure, okay, I'm done with graphics, let me work on text, and then things don't move around all over the place. So that's how you would use it. So that's just a more typical way of using layers, but you can also have another layer where you're trying something else to see if it works and go, maybe not, I'm not done with it, I'll turn it off. So there's all just different opportunities for why to use them. Let me just say that in general, most people who use Illustrator do not use layers avidly, and for better or for worse, it has its drawbacks and it has its good stuff, but a lot of the times it's because they never learned to use layers in Illustrator, and it is actually an organized way to work, right? So consider that not only can you have different artboards and stuff, but you can create different things on the same artboard as long as you're good at turning eyeballs on and off and then locking them. So whenever you subtly move something, you're not by mistake moving something that's in this layer because it got when you're really working on that one. Does that make sense? So if you just say that.
Exactly.
Now, some people forget that they're locked and then they go, let me move let me change the only hands, make it bigger. And they're like, why isn't it selecting? Why isn't it selecting? They forgot that they actually locked that layer, and thus everything becomes just like a little picture you can't touch, right? So we're gonna, so anyway, just wanted to ask you that, and I'm going to close that now. And I'm showing these things to you guys so that you can see how maybe a slightly more advanced file can be created, and that's what that's usually the files that Saul creates. He's incorporated a lot of what we've been learning here, and that's why I wanted to show that. Okay, so guys, let's go to Illustrator and create a new document. And this one is going to be square. So I don't know, 5 by 5 tends to be a goodish size. Notice that if you don't want to click in each box, you can hit the tab key and it keeps taking you to the next one. So I'm not actually clicking my mouse, even though it's here. I'm just tabbing through the choices. Tab the key that's kind of on the left side of your keyboard above the caps lock usually. So that's another way to move through. Anyway, or you're over here and you don't want to, so then you just do that. Now, if you are over here and you want to then go backwards on your tabs, you would hold the shift, and now I'm tabbing backwards. See that? So tab, tab, tab moves me forwards in my selections, and then shift, tab, tab, tab kind of move me backwards. But I go to every one of the choices, right? So if I know that I want to jump to this one, then why move through all of them? But sometimes learning how to use these keys speeds things up. Then grabbing your mouse, going over here and selecting, truly, when right now it seems like, oh, that's just 1 extra second. But when you're spending 2 hours on something, you know, an extra 10 minutes of grabbing the tools gets saved by using your shortcuts. Was it in this class or in digital design techniques that someone shared and they weren't using their shortcuts, and I said challenge yourself? And if it was in the other class, I'm still telling everyone, challenge yourself when you're in class and I'm here yelling out, use the V, use the D, use the shortcut. Challenge yourself to do it, because all of these things are muscle memory, right? And it gets to a point where if you do it when I'm reminding you, maybe when I'm not around, you can begin to remember these the most important shortcuts and incorporate them to make you be more efficient. Anyway, we're going to take off the bleed. No bleed. So I'm going to go over here to bleed and say 0 inches. We're going to leave the rest as is. Since I've been creating CMYK, it basically is still in CMYK. Let's say create. And oh, and mine was preset with 2 artboards and I left it at that. So create. Right. Let me recreate that also in my personal Illustrator. That way, if I have samples, I'll have them in both. And nothing there, and 2 artboards. Okay, there we go. Create. Okay, so now I have it created on both. Let me go back to Bridge.
Diana?
Yeah.
So when I'm doing it, so for some reason it's when I'm doing my new print, it gives me a checkbox for Artbox, for artboards. It doesn't give me everything that you're
And you're working on Mac or
So
PC?
I'm on PC.
Although in this case, both gave me the same choices.
Yeah.
I have not seen it show a checkbox, meaning no numbers. You can't like.
No, there's no numbers. It just says.
Well, what do you have a preset on top? Do you have like film
it says-
preset or something like that?
It says untitled.
No, but like preset. Have you here? Like when you go make a new one, here.
Here,
File.
let me just close out.
Like when you when you try to go do a file new, do you have a preset here? Maybe that like film and video. I believe there was one of them that didn't accept. Maybe mobile that didn't accept more artboards. No, all of them are giving me the choice of artboards. Interesting.
It says
So no.
default Photoshop size. So I think it's. So I have to go to.
Do you want to share your screen for a second? Because that
Yeah.
might make a difference when you create the file. It's pretty important because it's kind of like the base that you're going to be building everything else on. So let's see if there's something really strange going on. I'd like to see that.
Hopefully I'm seeing the right page. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I'm clicking.
New
Okay,
file.
so then I'm gonna, oops, hold on a second. I gotta move my
It's a
controls out of the way so I can see. Okay, here we go. So print,
Let me just show you something.
Okay.
It does say that this is, it says a preset details at the top of it, right? So I'm wondering if you're
Yeah.
using a particular preset, go and click on print, because yeah, I see the artboard is just on or off. Go ahead and click on print at the top as a different preset to see if that switches.
It looks like you're in
No.
Photoshop,
It's
not
still there.
Illustrator.
oh, you're right. I am.
Oh,
Would make a difference. Okay.
thank you. Well,
I
okay,
thought
but,
it was
but you know what? You know what? For those of you who are wondering about, let me just say something. Artboards did not exist in the meanwhile open Illustrator, right? But
Yeah,
thank
here,
you,
let me-
thank you so much for noticing that. But let me just say, artboards didn't exist in Photoshop before. Artboards have become incorporated into Photoshop over the last couple of years only, and they don't come on automatically. Your normal Photoshop layer file would not accept artboards unless you click it on that checkbox at the very beginning of the creation of the document. So in fact, for those of you who are ever wondering about artboards in Photoshop, you have to set it up at the beginning, and then you have the possibility of adding artboards. So anyway, go ahead and thank you. Who was the eagle eye there who noticed that? Who
That
spoke
was
up?
me, Anna.
Anna, thank you so much for that. Because here I'm like trying to troubleshoot it and not even having the big picture there. So thanks for the big picture there. All right.
Okay.
All right. So now let me share this again. Yeah, it's such a normal. What my experience of that has been a couple of times I've opened up my Zoom class and I'm sitting there waiting, going, God, is no one showing up? And it takes me like 5 minutes to check. And I've opened a different class that isn't meeting until another day. And I'm like, why am I waiting for people to show up? And then I close it and everyone on the class has been waiting for me to let them in and think I'm late. And I'm just like, where is everyone? So anyway, and we all do that. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna head back over to the VDI version. And when you have more than one artboard, the first opening of it is showing you all your artboards. Like if you had 5, it would show 5, you know, it would be much smaller, but it's harder to zoom into one page when there's nothing in it in particular. But say you just grab a little box and make something in it, then if you were to then do just Control-0, it would then focus in on that one, right? Let me just, that's just a little quick. If I undo that and I'm back out here, right? And I want to zoom in into one or the other one in particular, a tiny little trick is to just create something, right? I'm going to create something on the bottom right one, and then Control-0 fills my screen with that, right? And then just remember to hit delete. And it's just one of those little tricks that helps you navigate a little bit. Again, there's few enough of us that I can focus a bit on tidbits like that. Normally I wouldn't say that. All right, so let's approach artboard 1, right? And we're going to begin to learn how to use these basic elements to create some more complex shapes and figures. So let's head over to the ellipse tool. And let's give it a colorful fill. I haven't made it yet, so I can choose my appearance though, as long as the tool is selected, and it'll be the future appearance of when I make the shape. So I don't know, I'm gonna fill it with green. And I don't necessarily want borders myself in this image yet, but in order to show you something that I want to show you this, I'm going to leave a stroke, but I'm not going to make it too big. Make it a contrasting enough color, like black is fine, 1 point, because at least it'll be visible, but it won't be too obtrusive like when I show you these big, big fat strokes that I want to teach you about. In this case, a thin one is enough. So there's a fill, there's a stroke. Here's my ellipse, and I want to make a perfect circle. Now, perfect circle, what would I use right now to create a perfect circle?
The shift key.
Yeah, if I now hold the shift key, I would create a perfect circle. Now I'm going to undo that and have one more thing to show you. So watch, when I create a circle with this tool, with the click and drag tool, so to say, I start, you know, let me just show, this is a very specific point that I start at, right? And then when I drag, see how the circle gets created, not where I started. In fact, I clicked over there to start it, and the circle isn't even there at all, right? So it just moves, right? And where you started upon just becomes the far left corner of your bounding box. So sometimes you really need to do a circle. For example, if we were tracing, let me go over to quickly to bridge. If we were Oh, and this one, I don't have my Google Drive. Give me a sec, because this is the PC. Illustrator. I organize them by alphabetical. Here we go, Illustrator. Okay, I'm surprised that I didn't have these. Guess I don't demo I hadn't demoed in Bridge yet. Now that I think about it. Anyway, since it's VDI, it's taking a little bit of time, but say that I told you to recreate, for example, when we did the cars, it's not showing up yet, but the donut in the cars that has a lot of circles, the curves are in a precise spot, and you just really want to know exactly where they go. Or say someone has like round eyeglasses, and it matters where that circle goes, and you don't want to spend a lot of time making it and then moving it over. Then you can actually hold down the Option key for any of these shapes that you create, Alt for PC and Option for the Mac. It's the same key actually, but it's got two names. And then the shape that you create will be pulled from the center. See that? So I'm gonna delete that again. And when I hold down the Option or Alt key, it'll create itself from the place that you put it from the center. See how, so you have a little bit more control over the placement. Now, if I want it to be exactly starting right there and circular, perfect circle, then I have to both hold Alt and Shift, right? Because Shift gives me the circle, Alt gives me the center creation, so to say. So now by holding both together, then I can make a perfect circle and have it start or open up from the exact spot that I want it to. Does that make sense, you guys? So now you have a little bit more control. That said, you could have also just made it any which way and then just move it to the right spot. So, but sometimes, you know, efficiency wise, that's a really good one. Now, by the way, if you were to have a rectangle and hold the Shift in the center, it would, that is also, now you get the perfect square, and it is also creating itself from the center. Or in fact, the star that we used last time, and again, it pulls itself from the center. So you have more control over it. Did that start pulling itself from the center? Only in that my mouse seems to be holding on to one of the points, but notice that the star is growing from the same center spot versus dragging itself sideways. But that doesn't seem to have made much of a difference, because that's how stars really work. So, okay, it doesn't affect anything in the star so much, so forth, but it does for the other shapes, the polygons. Sometimes you just need to test it out to see. All right, if you have a bunch of stuff, delete them all. All I want is a circle. And let's make it bigger. But again, if I now make it bigger and I pull out, it's going to distort, right? So to make it bigger, I still need to hold on to the Shift. And all I'm doing is trying to just make it bigger, but the Shift has to be there if I want it to be what's
Perfect.
the name? Not so much for proportional. In this case, proportional. In this case, it would be perfect, but also basically just not distorting it. Now, by default, I've been grabbing the corners, right? Because in the past, that's the only way you could get something proportional. Depending on which Adobe program you're in, if you grab one of these sides and hold down the Shift key, it also works. Before, it didn't. So my default, because for years, you could only get it to be proportional, was from this corner, no matter if you hit the Shift. So I always hit Shift and hold the corner, but you can grow it from any which way now, pretty much on any of the applications. So the only one you should never touch, remember this one, we tried it one time, when you click on that, you get that little, like, you break your shape. So I'm going to undo that so that that doesn't happen to me, and undo. That's the only one that should not get touched. All right, so make yourself, so here's my square, right? Make yourselves a pretty biggish. So imagine that this is the center of my document. This kind of looks like it's about as big as half of it. And in fact, you know that we made them 5 by 5. And if you want to be precise about what size it is, just look over here and you go, oh yeah, it looks like it's 2.6, which is about half of it. And I want it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hold the key again, make it a tiny bit bigger. And notice that as I make it bigger, see how right to the bottom right of my tool, it's also telling me 277, 289, 25. You see that little like tooltip that's approaching? And that will only happen in the midst of resizing it. When I let go, that little guy disappears. So you don't have to even go all the way up there to see what you did. you can just kind of say, oh, I need it to be exactly 2.8. Let me see. And 2.8, 2.8. I'm getting 2.82, 2.81. And it's sometimes this isn't the most efficient thing. See, for some reason, it's going from 279 to 281. And if I, for some reason, really need 2.8, right, then this is not 2.8, this is 281. So then you have to go over here and type in the numbers. Or, as I've said in the past, just simply create the circle or the shape by simply clicking and then type in the numbers. If you know that you want a 2.8, you just type it in, right? And then you have it and you say, okay, and there's the perfect one. Or if you've created it this way, which is my default, I rarely create first and then, and with numbers, I usually always drag something out. Then if it doesn't fall exactly where I want, and it depends on the grid and the screen and all that kind of stuff, and you'll find some numbers are impossible to hit, then I head over here. But this is important. Right now, it says that it's not linked. So I'm going to do a number here that's crazy, you know, like 6. See, when I hit return, I distorted it because these are not linked. So if you know that you're working with shapes that have to be the same, you can click on that link and then write, write 2.8, and then that's all. Oh, sorry, I left the I left all the other stuff in there. So then you can write 2.8 and hit return, and well, it wasn't so different. So let's go for say 5, and I hit return and see how it maintains the proportion. So these links are always important to know that what they're doing is maintaining proportions. That said, let's go back and put a good old 2.8 in there so that our shape is a little bit bigger than center, or do it by dragging. And when you have one perfect little 2.8 circle, we'll continue. And I need a sip of water. So let me just say something. A couple of times I've had to listen back to my recordings. The other day, it was a humbling experience. I was having to pick out a little bit of piece to give to someone, and I speak really fast. And I might have mentioned this. I know I did it to one class. Granted, I say things again and again, and that's how I say, well, at least I repeated it 10 times, right? But do remind me if you need to slow down a bit. And also, as I tell you to do it, then I kind of start again on the thing. Like I do it twice or sometimes 3 times and saying it again. And here's the good and the bad thing. I have people of all levels in my class. So instead of just saying, make it bigger, period, I'll show you 3 ways to do something, right? Well, get what? Those 3 ways are for the more advanced students, maybe for the people who are already over it and they've created a circle 10 times. And now it's like, oh, you can create it this way too. But if you're new or a beginner at any of this, just consider listening to one that works for you and learn the one that works for you. Okay. Don't think that you need to try them all and then fall behind because one of the methods doesn't work for you. It's more, I'm trying to give nuggets to those who want some more beyond the basics. Okay. But don't feel like, oh, she said it, I should know how to do it 3 ways. No. Knowing one way is more than enough. When you feel more comfy, you'll learn the other ways. All right. Just wanted that little disclaimer there because I was listening to myself going, I went through 3 ways of doing something really quickly. And yeah, that can maybe be confusing. But I also take into account who's in class, and you are all moving really well, really fast. Whoever's left in this class, there's no there's no one who's not keeping up, right? And so I'll also mold myself to who's here, and you guys are great. So, but do stop me if I'm going too fast. Okay. Let me slow down. I also read really fast, and whenever I have to read out loud, people are like, slow down. They can't intake the intake. That said, I can plow through books really quickly, which is good, but not when I'm trying to share. Okay, enough said. One circle, one perfect circle. I think I already taught you what's the best way to get a copy out of this now. If I want another exactly, I mean, other than creating another one, which is more work, what other way would I make a perfect copy of this circle?
hold down the Option key.
Make sure it's selected. Hold down the Alt for the PC, Option key for the Mac. And my mouse turns into these little 2 pointers. And then I drag out. And the good news of this is that I can place it wherever I want. Yeah. Now, let's get rid of that. Select it again. And I think I showed you this already, but the copy paste, which is, you know, for many people, it's a really Command C, Command V. It's just a really quick shortcut. Has one thing against it, which when you do the Control C and then the Control V, that thing you paste will always show up like in the center point of your artboard. And if you're drawing over here and it shows up over here, sometimes that makes a difference if you have a big artboard. But here's the negative of the Option Alt, is that since it can go anywhere, it's hard to get it to easily go and drop itself parallel exactly from where you want it. So here comes, remember, whenever you have to do something that constrains proportions or shapes or sizes or movements, the good old Shift key. So I'm going to hold down again the Option or Alt, and I'm going to hold the Shift key. Now, when I pull out, so first, my voice, I'm sorry, I forgot that I'm on the PC version, so I need to redo my shortcut. Here we go. When you hold down your Option key, you begin to create your second one. At that point, it can go anywhere. Look what happens if I'm over here and I hold down the Shift key. Boom. See that? My mouse is making it go off, but then when I hold down the Shift key, it's going to go book. And it snapped itself. I didn't move it there. It snapped itself to placing itself on the exact place that it's coming from. Does that make sense? And then once I have those two held down and I begin to try to move it up and down, it's like, no, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just pulling itself parallel in this case. Now, if I push it too much and I move it into a ton higher, then it will go. But guess what? It'll go to like 75%. And then you pop up and it'll go only 90%. So the Shift kind of will let it go to only to some certain specific spot based on some like underlying grid that's controlling this artboard. Anyway, so all of that was to say, let's pull out a circle perfectly parallel, and you'll see later why this step really matters. If this step you don't do it, everything else that come afterwards will be messed up. And a lot of times people just go, it doesn't matter. And they have like 1 pixel off, like it's literally 1 tad off. What's gonna come next will not be the right shape because it won't be perfectly symmetrical. And to get a perfectly symmetrical shape out of what we're gonna learn, it needs to drop in the exact spot. So anyway, now that I've said that, if yours wasn't pulled out that way, delete it and do it away. Again, so that you know for sure that they are on the exact same line. Now, once again, there is also one old giveaway, and we've talked about that, which is the smart guides. So see, the smart guide is showing me that, yes, it's going in the right place. And if I move it without my Shift key, I'm not seeing that pink thing. When I get, and now I don't have my shift key turned on, I'm looking for it. And if I wait and hesitate, when I see that pink spot, I don't have my Shift key on, but that pink line is telling me, yep, that's exactly the spot you should let go, right? So that's also a valid way of using your smart guides. Those pink lines are the smart guides. All right, so whichever way you handled it, at this point, we should all have 2 circles somewhere in this section of your board. And right now, just for this example, I want you to change the fill to something very different, very obviously different on one of them, and have a very clear difference in your 2 circles. All right, when you're done with this, which I'm sure everyone has been for a while waiting for me to continue, but give me a yes to make sure that you all got all of those little tidbits in, and you've got your 2 perfect circles overlapping, intersecting each other. Right. So now, what I want you to consider is that this one's on top, layers and all that, but I need to open the layers right now. But this one's on top, and this one's underneath. So even though by default, I don't see the underneath one because this is a solid fill, when I select the one underneath, I do see the path, right? So I see the skeleton, if you want, of this shape, even though when I'm not selected, it respects the fact that it's, not there. But if I hover, I'm not even selecting, but if I hover over the green one, the path turns itself on. So I can kind of see that those elements that create this shape, no matter what. So we're going to work now with those. How do we combine and create things based on these paths and anchors that create this element? Okay. All right. Hi, Amber. Nice to see you. I know I've talked to you, but now it's nice to see you. All right. So first things first, everything we're going to do next, we always have to select both elements. And if I had 3, then all 3 elements. And I've had 4, all 4 elements. Like all these tools and imply that the first thing you do is you select that which you need. On one only, nothing will work. So again, I've taught you many ways to select both. My favorite way, I'll just click my mouse kind of right here and I'll just drag just that much. That's all I need to do. I need to just touch with the V, the black selection tool, enough that I touch a little bit of each and boom, that will select the whole 2 items. I find a lot of people, no matter how much I say that, when they share the screen, they kind of go like that to select everything. And I just want to let you know, save your energy and just do that. That's good enough. That selected the entire 2 objects, okay? One of those things that'll give you some speed and comfort. All right. So now that I have both of these guys selected, that means I'm seeing the paths that create both of them. I am going to see, once again, the properties panel, whatever you select, it provides you the most typical choices. And down here, I see something called the Pathfinder, right? So this Pathfinder, if you look at the little art, it's kind of clear enough-ish, but see how if I hover over it, it'll actually give you instructions. Click to unite. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to, and I'll tell you the rest in a minute, but just the first part, click to unite, click to minus front, click to intersect, click to exclude. So let's try those one at a time, but then we have to undo it. Okay, so click to unite. All right. I got one shape now. I've united them. What glaring obvious thing happened to these 2?
They picked the top item's color.
Yeah, you can't have in one object 2 different colors other than in a gradient form, right? And that whole conversation that we had before, but yep, they defaulted to the topmost color. That's the one that gets chosen. So if you wanted them green, you got to go to layers and invert the position, right? Or arrange them in a way that otherwise you'll have to go and choose green again, right? Okay, so that's unite. We got one shape and good, that's great. That's really useful to know. Let's undo. So Command or Control Z. This is the one that I believe it was in Digital Sign Techniques that someone didn't want to go, they would go to edit and do undo. But you guys, that one really is a waste of time because we're constantly redoing and undoing stuff. So do try to remember Control or Command Z. This is a quick one. All right, we tried that one out. Now let's try the next one out. It's click to minus front. Now the front one would be the yellow one, right? So when I click to minus front, what happened is not that the front object disappeared, but that the front object disappeared with everything under it. So I knocked out, I chopped off what's underneath it. Does that make sense? Now, the good news is we're left with one object. So if you're left with one object, look what disappeared from here. The Pathfinder tools, right? Because as I said, they need to be more than 2 or more, because you can't knock things out of themselves. So that's why I keep telling you Command Z to undo, so we can try out the next one. Does that make sense? Now that I have 2 objects, boom, there are the Pathfinder tools again. That said, learn what these tools are called so that when you don't see them, you can always go to the window and open your Pathfinder tools on your own, right? In case they don't pop up in the properties panel. Or maybe you're in the libraries and you want the Pathfinder, well, you just go here and turn them on instead of having to switch back to the properties panel. All right, so now I'm back here in the properties panel, and the next one is click to intersect. You're left with just the intersection. Because click to intersect, it could have been either way, right? What's going to appear? So yeah, what you're left with is just the intersection. Now, Command Z. And the last one is click to exclude. So basically, it's always talking about the overlapping part, right? You're uniting the overlapping part. You're knocking out the overlapping part. So basically, this Pathfinder is always directing itself to the overlapping part, which in this case is only that, right? So the last one clicks to exclude, then it excludes that little intersection. So it consider that it's always going to act upon that place where the two shapes are interacting. Other than the unite, which basically moves everything together, right? So, okay. Now there's more options down here. And if you click on these three dots, you have something called Pathfinders and a whole bunch of other choices. But for now, just let's ignore that. These are the main ones that we tend to use. I will talk to you about these in a minute later, but they do something very different. These unite, the top one unites shapes. These break apart shapes. So I don't want to break apart anything right now, but they do the opposite. Okay, so ignore them for the time being. And we're back to having, so we're back to where we started, right? You all have your two shapes. Now, let me show you another way, which sometimes really is much more controllable. Now, this isn't that when I teach you two things that one is an alternative to the other. No, this is great, but it's kind of limited. Because what if what I wanted to do is to have the green thing hang out, but the yellow to still be there? Like I didn't see that option, right? Or, you know, I want the green to be like a half moon, but I want the yellow to stay as a circle, right? I want something that's not within those four choices, right? So there's a tool over here on the right above the gradient tool, and it's called the shape builder. So let's click on that shape builder. And here's the thing. Let me just tell you again and again and again. A lot of the times people go, oh, I'm going to work on this with the shape builder. They go and choose the shape builder and then they go, nothing's working. You get this little like forbidden shape. They go, it's not working for me. It's not working for me. It's because the Pathfinder will only work again on things that are selected. So you guys already had them selected. But this is a warning because the many times that I've had to pay for someone telling me that it's not working for me. And always the answer is, did you select two shapes? Then it begins to work. So anyway, select two shapes, Pathfinder tool. Now watch it first. Just watch my screen first. Then you can explore. But out here, when I hover over it, see it kind of turns into this little mini grid. It's like a little mesh. And it says plus, like my tool has a little plus underneath it, right? And here I have a little mesh. I'm not clicking, I'm just hovering. When I come over here, I have a mesh. And when I come over here, I have a mesh. Now this is very different because before when we choose each one, you get only each, let someone in, you get each element. Like here, when you use the Pathfinder, that intersection became its own element. Like it's not a shape that's been created. It's just an intersection. So right now, the easiest thing I'm going to do, the tool's in plus mode. I'm going to click and drag across all three parts. Although it's two objects, there's three parts now, and let go. And that's equivalent to uniting. Now, I'm going to do that again. I didn't go all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. As long as I get a little bit of the green, the intersection, and a little bit of the yellow, so I can start right here and drag. And there you go. Once I have those three, then that's enough, right? That's enough to let go and create one united shape. So that's the same as what we did before here with this Pathfinder, right? So two ways to do the same thing. Now, why is this more versatile? Because beyond uniting, one of the good things that this is good at is at taking things away. So now I'm going to hold down before I tell you, what's the key that is always the negative version of the tool? The one that will do the opposite or will take away. I already told you that shift is always for constraining or, maintaining things the kind of the way they are. It's the way to keep things in line, like the rule maker. That's your shift key. It's like, follow the rules, keep straight. No, don't change shape. So whenever you want to revert a tool's shape, if a tool's work, if it's possible to be reverted, it's always the Option or Alt key. That's the negative. So when I hold down the Option or Alt key, see how my little plus sign under my tool turned into a little minus? See that? So the Option or Alt key is the negative, right? So as long as these are still selected and I hold down the Option or Alt key now, then I can say, I just don't want this little middle part. And I can just drag just a touch, a little line, and boom, I have gotten rid of the middle part. So I'm going to do that again. Put it in minus mode, and then just drag a mini line, and there you go. That thing that I'm targeting disappeared. I'm going to undo that, and now I'm going to hold the Option key, and I'm going to drag across 2 of these. And now I'm left with whatever. Now this was not an option before, because the option before left me with the bottom one, the green one, because it was exclude back, or what was the name, minus front or something like that. Now this, it was minus front. Minus front got rid of the yellow and left us the green. And there was no minus back. There was only a minus front, right? So this tool allows me to do something that those choices didn't give me. I can also hold down the Option key and do these 2, and we're left with, that good old thing. Let's go ahead and undo that. Now, this one seems a little bit stranger. Let me just back up again. Clearly, this yellow is one thing and the orange is another thing, right? We're all pretty clear about that. When I select both of them, they are still their own individual shapes. Watch what happens with my shape builder tool. If I now choose to, with the positive tool, I choose to join, I'm sorry, not there, undo. I choose to join the 2 yellow parts, which we already know exist as one shape, right? They are one shape, but let's do that. Let's just do a little line across the 2 things that are already one shape. So what is actually happening there? Well, I'm going to go back to the selection tool and notice that what's missing now, there's never any path here, because what I did is I created a shape. I've basically gotten rid of the part that was intersecting. So until you separate it, you don't really notice, other than the telltale path is missing when you do that, right? So here's the shape builder tool again, and I'm joining 2 things that already are kind of joined, but remember, this is now broken up to its intersecting parts. So what I'm doing is I'm saying the intersection plus this piece, put them together. So by default, that means that the green one lost its intersecting part. Does that make sense? Now, with this simplistic examples, and I'm going to undo everything again. Undo. Oh, I undid to the point where I lost my, here, let me get back my yellow on this one because I over undid, so to say. Yellow or orange, whatever it might be. That gives you much more flexibility. Now we're working with just 2 little shapes here, and only 2 shapes. Leave those 2 there because we're going to come back to them. We really will do a lot of work with that. Move over to your second artboard now, and let's just explore this tool a tad. First of all, let's bring out, I don't care now if it's perfect or not, let's bring out a shape. Let's make another one that overlaps it. Then let's, and if you want to give them different colors so they get, easier to distinguish, go for it. Then go and get a rectangle, right? And then put a rectangle over that. I'm going to give it a different color again. And then maybe make a a little star, right? And have it overlap. And let's change its color too. What I haven't used yet, the purple. Okay, so basically put a bunch of shapes on top of the other. Then move back to your selection tool and just kind of make them touch or mesh a little bit. So this is just random, whatever it is that you come up with. So it's just playing around with them, with the tool. If you want to use the shape builder tool, and you're going to want to use them on all of them, my main big thing I said at the beginning was, what should I do? To use the shape builder tool on all of them, what's the first step I need to consider?
You're selecting an area where they all intersect. Is that what you're
Actually, good point, because I told you go into the middle of those. Basically, the answer would have been, you said it, select all the shapes, but you don't have to worry about whether they all intersect or not. In this case, who knows? Yes, it's true that if I click over here and dragged to there, I would have, or even to there, I probably would have touched all of them, but you don't need to be so careful in detail. Just a general like that would be enough, right? So don't get too crazy about whether they intersect or not. It's what I'm trying to say is you don't need to go from the top and all the way to the bottom to get them all. You can just kind of drag across the middle and that kind of touch them. That said, let me just say that the star wasn't touching and you did this, right? And you only got those. Did you really get the green? I don't know. How would you know? Well, if you move it, oh yeah, the green was there, but the star was not. So then if you have 3 elements up here that you want, and you have to select all of them, right? The good old Command A that you guys might know of is a great shortcut forever. So to select all, and some of you know it and some of you don't. Here's a problem with the controller Command A. It selects everything everywhere, including what's on every page. It truly is a select all. So now I got stuff that I didn't want. So grab these 3. Remember, when you do more than one, you hold the shift key and then grab the other one. And there you go. Now you have them all, right? So first use the quick access and then hold the shift to grab that little outlier. Okay. So anyway, just little tidbits here. Okay. Now I did want them all together. So I am going to put them all together because that's the point of the Pathfinder. And I am going to select them all. And now let's grab that Pathfinder tool. So now let's play around with this shape because we all have different shapes. So whatever you made is going to be different than mine. And start saying, okay, now what would happen if I hold down the Option key right now and get rid of this little bit? Oh, Pathfinder tool. And I just get rid of like these 2 bits right there. And then I get rid of these 2 bits right there. And then I, get rid of that, or, just start playing around and see how very easily. And again, we're not creating anything in particular, but very quickly you can see how shapes begin to exist that wouldn't have existed before. Now, if you, so anyway, play around with it a little bit, join some things. So I'm just going to join these 3. Right. So now, right now, it doesn't look like there's much difference between here and now. And then I'm going to join these as well. But the result of all these deletions and joinings might not show up until I am on a separate tool. I'm going to leave the Pathfinder tool. I'm going to then now click away. And now let's see what got left behind. Well, there's this happened, and that happened, and this happened, and this happened. Now this was completely random. Whatever happened was random, right? I didn't try to make a shape in particular, right? But when you do this for real, let's say, because you're really trying to make this happen, this is a really powerful tool. Can anyone think of an example where this might be useful and or powerful? And again, we've all ended up with different shapes. I am 100% sure of that because it was a very random thing. But let me show you, and I'm going to edit artboards and add 2 more artboards. So I'm going to click edit artboard, and I can only see it because I have nothing selected. If I had something selected, I wouldn't see edit artboard. So click away, edit artboards, and let's go over here, and I'm going to add 2 more. Flip and flip. So now I have 4. Okay. If I were to go down, you'd see that I'm down to 4 artboards. Okay. So I'm going to zoom up again, and let's go to the 3rd artboard. And now let's do something that's a tad more directed. Okay. Well, actually, stop. Did that work for you all guys? You all got some random shapes and things broken in and broken out, and it worked? Give me a yes. Did something like not make sense or didn't seem to do what you thought it would do? Give me a no. Right, I'm getting mostly yeses. Gerard, how you doing? There it is. Monica, okay, yeses from anyone. Andrea, by the way, is here in spirit. She'll join us in a few minutes, so I'm not expecting a yes from her. Cool, let me undo this. So now let's go to one of these empty artboards. And for example, let's make a rectangle here. I'm going to make rectangle. And then let's make a star. So I'm going to make a star. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same color or not, but I'm just going to add, I haven't let go of it yet. I'm just going to go ahead and add some tips just because I've added a couple of tips to that star. Okay, so now I go back to my selection tools. Remember the shortcut, the V is really good. And I'm going to move one on top of the other. So if just for the sake of showing you what's happening, I'm going to change its color. You don't have to for the Pathfinder to work. It's just that it's easier as a demonstration. And I'm going to go ahead and position this star. You do whatever you want. I'm going to position it so that maybe those tips kind of coincide with the edge of that rectangle. And, you know, I'm just playing around still. I'm not trying to create a shape that we're going to use for much, but here I've made 2 primitive shapes, right? If I select them both and I grab the Pathfinder, then maybe now I'll do a minus to this and a minus to that. And I'm left with like a little crowny shape, for example, right? So if you begin to be a little bit more targeted and to find out, well, what will I be left with? I'm going to undo those 2 things. Or in this case, even I'm going to make the star a little bit smaller. I'm going to make this red box a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to, you know, and that would be nice if this were actually a square instead of, but what, okay. And now I'm going to select both and use my Pathfinder tool. And actually, I'm going to do a little minus right there. And now, so I've like created a little donut shaped, if you want, an empty center. Now, drawing this out, you guys drew some stuff the other day. It's not that simple to sit and draw stuff. So drawing this out, you would have had to, it's a complicated thing to draw. But what a simple thing it was to create by just knowing a couple of other tools. Does that make sense? First of all, questions. Second of all, tell me if it worked. And third of all, what we created here is a compound path. Look at what happened in my layers. See the star? And then it says compound. I'm going to gently introduce you to compound paths, but here, without even thinking about what we were doing, we created a compound path where the 2 paths are acting from 2 different shapes, are acting together to create one object now, because this is one object. It's not like I can drill it, you know, actually I can drill it. Let me introduce that in a second, but this is one object. See how there's no layers here or groups? Remember when we put groups of things? Here, let me just group all these guys up to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to group these up by selecting them, and then I can either select Control G, or I can go all the way up here to select and group. I've grouped them. When you group something, over here in the layers, you see group. And when you open all of them, you see them, you know, individually. And I've taught you that you can go into them by double clicking. Now, none of these are overlapping, yet if I try to go into this one and change its color, I can't, because it's a group. I have to do that whole drilling in with my double clicks. I have to go into isolation mode, double click, and then double click to get here where I can move it on its own, right? So that's how I separate them when they're a group, but they stay a group when I walk away. Now, the compound path, on the other hand, began as two shapes. I used my shape builder tool, and now it's really one shape. See how there's no little groupy thingy here? It is one shape. It is truly one shape, and it will respond to just about anything you do to it, to one shape. But, and watch, I can double click, double click, double click. I can select the star. It's still one shape, but in isolation mode, I'm in isolation mode. See this gray bar? I can select the internal shape that doesn't show up anywhere, but I can still select that internal shape and move it over a little bit. And then I hit escape, and I have modified a shape that's truly one, but it hasn't turned into one, like a join. Watch, when I joined these two, and I just here, for example, or with the selection, I am down to one shape. There's no more other shape. This is now from two, you became one. And it's the same if I use the Pathfinder tool. Had I done that, it's still one shape. See over here? It doesn't say compound path. It's truly one shape. But in this case, where we knocked something out of it, so to say, we are left with both of those shapes, which, even though they show up as one thing, I could drill into it, double click, and then, although the only thing that's being selected is the outside path, and I don't see a star to select here, I could still grab it and move it, and now put it over there, and then hit escape to get out of there. And this is the shape that I've just created. And it's a compound path that I can, again, double click. So, you know, now that you see this, can you imagine the hundreds and thousands of logos that you probably have seen in the past that do this kind of thing? I just creating a star in a box. I'm not trying to make a good logo, but showing you the works. Okay. Yes, if everything is working, you're totally good and you don't have any questions. No, or hands up if you do, like Moni did. So, okay, Moni.
Okay, so I can select and move the background, but I can't seem to get it so where I can move the star.
Okay, so double click, and
Yeah.
then remember it's empty, so I can't grab the star. I need to put my mouse on the path.
Oh,
To
okay.
grab it, because it is empty. There's, you know, I'm grabbing emptiness. Remember, when something is a none, it's truly empty. So yeah, it's the path that creates the object that needs to be clicked on. So yeah, good point, great question. By the way, I can modify it. I can hit shift and make it into a tiny little star, you know, over here. And I can make it into a big one. You know, it's like, I truly can treat them both as individual elements.
Hey, Diana,
Yes.
how did you go from isolation mode to compound? You,
I'll start.
under-
Yep. Mhm.
I'm under layers.
Yeah. So let me actually do this one again, because yeah, I showed it only once. And so I got rid of it. So first I made two separate objects, right?
Mhm.
So I made a star. Let's go with this in, and then I made a rectangle. But so that's all I did. And let me again change the color so that we're clear that we've got the little objects here. So then in this case, what I did, and just so it's a bit easier to see, I'm gonna put it on top. So then what I did is as you can see now, you know, you could move it. So it wasn't so important to put it in the right place from the beginning, but I put it in the place that I wanted it. Then I selected both shapes. That's crucial. Then I went to the compound, to the shape builder tool. And then I got rid of this one that's on top by holding down the Option key and saying minus. Now, look at what happened here. Can you tell the difference in what I did before and after? Give me a second. Let me undo that again. I did minus, watch. This is what I was going to show you next, but since I'm doing this again for Gerard, don't do this for a minute, Gerard. What I have here, is this a compound path?
No.
No, but guess what? If I hadn't taught you to check your layers, would you know whether it's a compound path or not? So pretty interesting how layers inform us of stuff. Over here, it just says path. Now, what was it that I did differently? Let me undo from the first time. Is that the first time my star was inside the shape, right? And I just did a little minus and it knocked out. In this case, I did a minus inside the shape, but I also included the outside portion. So then it turned into just a path. Watch if I only do minus onto the inside shape, right? What I end up here, if I look over here, is that a compound path? No, it's two shapes. In fact, they didn't even join, right? So once again, you got to be careful where you're doing these things. So to create that compound path with this tool, and let me do this one quick last time, undo a bunch of times. Then the above shape has to be fully inside the other shape, because you're kind of making a hole. Think of it like the donut effect. Let me, instead of a rectangle, I'm gonna, you've seen this logo probably hundreds and thousands of times, I am sure, made out of a circle. This is such a typical logo. I'm gonna put this in there. Let me, once again, I'm gonna put this one on top because to knock it out, it needs to be above it. And I'm gonna put this in the center. Now I'm just gonna select both, shape builder tool, minus the star, and there you go. Now that is compound because it was inside, it's contained by that shape. Does that make sense? So when I left the star pointing out, it just became a united path or two separate paths. But being inside of it, I created, there's other ways to create compound shapes, by the way. I could have a compound shape of the one that I showed you before, but not necessarily with this tool. So with this tool, you need to have that element where one object was completely inside of the other. And then when you knock it out, what you end up is with two separate shapes posing as if they were one.
Okay, thank you.
Got it? Great question. Okay, give me yeses, you guys, if all of this kind of worked for you or not. Isn't Texaco or one of those things? I know this, I have too many legs to my star, but if it had been a little 5-star one, I think, now I'm curious. Yeah, there you go. Texaco logo. Now we know it's a compound path. Right? How do you make this? Now you know how to make this. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Let's do that. Let's make a Texaco logo. Right? Head back to VMware. So let's see, just for fun, let's make a little red circle. Somehow when I did this shape as a sample, suddenly it looked like, wait, I've seen this shape before, right? So let's put all the elements. And the elements right now, if I'm looking at them, are a T, a star, 5-point star, and a circle, right? Those are the elements. Do we know how to make those 3 elements? Be honest. Do we know how to make a T yet? That's an object? No, unless you took my class before. We only know how to make a T that's a letter, which is a different creature. I have not taught you yet how to make a T that's a letter. That's an object. So hold on that thought, because that's coming later today, but I don't want to mesh things. Tell me, what is that T in the end? If you look at the shape, what is that T?
Couldn't we just make 2 rectangles?
Exactly. It's two rectangles. So with what we know now, I mean, there's another way to do that, and I'll tell you later, but with what we know now, this is two rectangles. That's all it is. Yeah. So we can head over here, and I'm going to make all these shapes separately. I'm going to put this little rectangle there, and then I'm going to put this one there. And really, this is just like a little rough idea. And then I'm going to pull out a star. But I have to now hold on to it and hit minus a few times to get my little five star shape. And then I let go. So now I've created all my elements, right? Well, one thing that I seem to have left, which is not part of the logo, is all of these have a stroke, remember? Now, that's what makes this not look like a T. That's not really necessarily a problem, that it doesn't look like a T, because remember, when I unite these, let me go a little bit up so that you can see. Command C, Command T. If I were to now choose these two and unite them, that would be the easiest way. That stroke will disappear, and it'll go, and it'll just now only be the stroke for the entire shape. But if I were to use the space builder tool, I can't just do that. I have to do that. I have to like include everything. So I would have to do that. Does that make sense? You'd have to make sure to, it's not just the two objects, it's actually the three parts, the intersecting object. Okay, one way or another, I've made a T. Oops. Now I'm going to go over here, and the tips of the star go exactly to the ends of the circle. So I'm going to grab this star.
I have a question
And-
about the star.
Yes.
The Texaco star has the lines are straight, like from the left tip of the left. See what I mean?
Yeah, I see that.
So how do we modify our star to do that?
Well, you missed the class, but you did see the class. First of all, you could create it, and then with your white selection tool, you could, one quick answer I'm just
Right,
going to give you
okay,
is
yes.
modify these
see,
and, you know,
yes.
bring them down.
Okay.
You know, that would be one quick,
Right. Okay.
quick way to get that. But that, just because right now we're not creating it from start, from crash, we're creating it from an existing star. We would have to modify it. You would probably, to make a star of your own shape and design, you would probably draw a little grid, and then with the tool, with this, you know, with the pen tool, you would click, 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 and get the exact star you
Right.
want by creating it. Does that make sense, you guys, what I
Yes,
just said?
thank you.
But let's just go ahead and good eyes though, and noticing that. But let's go ahead, for the purpose of learning compound path, let's go ahead and use this one, which is not that way. Or if you guys have time, go ahead and do what I did with the white selection tool and modify it a little bit. But what matters to me right now is whatever star I have. Whatever star I have, PC shortcuts. Whatever star I have, let's hold down the shift key, right? And then move it around until I get it to be exactly, this would be a perfect, okay, I don't want to miss this opportunity. This would be a perfect example. Hold on, I'm getting excited. If I want to create a star right now, right? Or another circle, or let me start the other way. Let me create the star first, right? Here's a star. This is a perfect star. Let me move it into position. This is a perfect star, or so it seems. If I want to create the perfect circle around it, and it could have been done in any direction, but if I want to create the perfect circle touching the edges, watch what I'm going to do. This takes a little bit more training. I'm going to choose my ellipse, change the color so you can see it coming. Oh, I should have done the other direction. I should have done the circle first, because now this is going to cover it. Okay, I'm going to put my mouse, and I'm gonna use those, watch you guys. I'm gonna use, look at when I move this shape. When I move this shape, just watch. You see that there's a little point there that seems to always be called the center? You see that little X where all these green, these smart guides are pushing out from a place that's the center? See that? So that center point, if I go ahead and try to make a circle, I can hover here until I see that my mouse suddenly lights up with the word center. See that? So I can know that that means I'm in the center of that star. Then I hold down my Option key and my Shift key, and I pull out a star. I should have done it with a star. I should have done it the other way around, because then I wouldn't be hiding it. Let me delete the star and start the other way with the star. Okay, so I'm going to do it with a star. So let's get another color, just because it's smaller and it'll be on top, right? So I didn't need to change that color. I need to change my new star back to star. So now I'm going to, the star doesn't pull out from the center, remember? So that's, look, oh, wait, look, Monica.
Yes, I did that, but then it flipped back to be the star. How once you let go, it probably flips back to be.
No,
Oh no, look at that.
look what happened. No, hold on.
What did you press to do that?
Yeah, it's so funny.
Well,
I
when
went to
did
my
it,
star. I hover over until I see the
center point?
blue center. So let me, and that you can move later. It's me just,
Yeah.
I click with my Option key
Mhm.
and my Shift key, because that constrains it, and I pull it out, and suddenly the star that's pulling out is the one that Monica pointed out that wasn't happening. So who knows what star I pulled out before versus this one. It's just, it is. Oh, I must have looked around and it's not an exact center. But look what I'm doing, guys. The star isn't changing, but I forgot to teach you this last week. I'm moving the star. I'm still creating it, okay? See, I'm still making it, but I'm holding, what am I holding? I'm holding the Option key, I'm holding the Shift key to constrain it, and I'm holding the space bar. And this disconnects it from that little place, and now I can just move in and out and hold the space bar when I want to move it, but let go of the space bar when I think I'm actually touching the edges, right? And then keep working on it until I get to the exact edge. So that's the space bar, the one that picks up the thing that I have not yet finished creating, okay? You have to still be in the creation mode of it. Then the space bar helps you move that shape. And then I can go ahead and make it bigger or smaller. That said, there's also tools that help us intersect things correctly. This is just me trying to throw one more little thing into the whole thing. But, and this is the important thing, Monica, who might have happened to you and everyone, I now, if I were to let go of my fingers on my keyboard, my star becomes whatever it becomes. If instead, I first let go of the mouse and then I let go of the keyboard, then everything stays like what I designed. So it's, you always, when you create a shape and you're modifying it, right, in one way or another, let's move it there, let's move it there, and let's do things to modify it. If I now let go of the modifying keys, when I let go, it loses its shape. When I first let go of the mouse, it stays with the shape that I last made. Okay, that's just the way the things work. So when you like the shape you have, let go of the mouse. The mouse is what's creating the shape. But keep the modifying keys pressed down, and then you end up with the shape that you wanted. Then you let go of the modifier keys. Okay. That said, it's not like they are perfect. So in my case, when I let go, I still have, my tips are not exactly right. So let me show you one more thing we can do. We can use tools to center these. So I can select these two shapes and look at the shape. Right above the Pathfinder keys, there's things that help me center things. And this is what I wanted to show you the other week about the stars, that the class time was out and I missed out on showing you this. I can align these horizontally and vertically, and then I'll get the two centers exact. So now I'm going to click this one and this one, and oh, this one only. Oh, they build upon each other. Let me undo. I'm going to click just that one. And now I have, if I click away, see how I have the exact same amount of tips sticking out from all of them? Now, that tip, is it a problem or not? Well, it depends. If I'm going to keep the stroke, that's going to be a problem. But if I get rid of the stroke, I'm going to change its color so that we can see that it's really a star there. If I get rid of the stroke, I might not have a little tip pointing out anymore. It depends. Can you tell from where you are if this tip is in or the shape or not? Can you tell? Just look at my screen. Can you tell? It's an easy answer. What am I expecting you to say? Can you tell?
It sits on the stroke.
Yeah, I'm gonna have it. I want another answer. Can you tell?
No.
The answer, and I'm feeding it to you, starts with the letter N. What can it be? Okay, so my lesson in Illustrator. You cannot tell when you're so far away. You can guess, but you're really far away. So how do you approach this place to really see? Well, I could zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Or if I do want to grab the zoom tool, or actually press the letter Z only to grab the zoom tool, I can drag a little box right there. And it's going to take me to that place. Now, depending on how your mouse is set up, instead of having that happen, and let me see if I have another mouse here. Hold on. Let me redo. Let me undo. Hold on. I undid some stuff that I need to make sure is still there. Command mine. I forget that I'm in good old PC mode. But this is my. So another. I have another mouse here. Let's see if that one does the other thing I was trying to show you, because different mice work differently. So here I was trying to do, nope, it's still doing that to me. Okay, some of you guys might have experienced that when you grab that, maybe my pen, my Wacom pen. Let's see in this one. Nope, all of them are acting the same way right now. I think it's the VDI. If I go to the Mac, it'll act differently. So what I was trying to show you that is that with the zoom tool, and I believe it's a Mac thing, I would make a little tiny box right here, and I would go straight to that corner. Let me quickly see if my hunch is right that it's a Mac thing. Let me just quickly see, because I'm not sure. If I went to investigate like that little tip, no, it's doing the same thing. Anyway, it did get me there. It did get me there, but maybe it's you know what? It's probably a choice in the preferences. That's not the default one. So I'm going to stop trying to. Oh, I didn't even want to do that. I'm going to stop trying to show you what I'm trying to show if it's not happening. What's the point? But usually what you would get is like a little selection box, one of those little dotted boxes, and it would just pop in, making these right in the middle of you work. But you can also get there by zooming in, and see how no matter what, it's zooming in to where I'm clicking. It's not zooming into that star or this star. By putting my zoom tool and then zooming in, I go straight to the spot, and then I go, oh yeah, it's definitely not working. So you can never look at something from afar in Illustrator and assume it's working. Got it? When you're talking about little tips, this makes such a difference. Now here I took the stroke off, but I did not take the stroke off of that. And if my shape is not going to have a stroke, I got to take the stroke off of the second one too. And then we'll be really far off. When I take two strokes off, look how far my tips were. Because it was the stroke that was doing the thing. And when I do the whole compound path knocking out, it's not gonna do it it's not going to respect the stroke. It's only going to respect the path. This is going to pop out of that. So now I'm going to have a little hole in there. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here. If I'm losing you, let me know. If this is working and you're playing around, give me a yes. So here's the thing. The main takeaway or lesson from what I just did is, yeah, sometimes you can tell if it's working or not, but you gotta go in there. Okay, you gotta go in there to see. So anyway, I'm gonna try to resize this one a little bit more until hopefully the tips of my stars really do. And then what you can do is I'm nudging it with my arrow keys right now. I'm doing a little one down, one up, one right, one left, and that's kind of nudging the shape in little tiny bits when my mouse really can't figure anymore if it's good enough. I was just nudging it. Let me show you again. I'm selecting the shape and just a little up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, right arrow. That moves it just one little grid line over, which my hand couldn't have done. Had I tried to move it exactly that much, it might have just not like been exact. So use your arrows. And now I'm going to inspect the whole thing. I'm going to zoom in at the same level to this one and go, oh yeah, it's working there too. Now I'm going to zoom over. Remember, I'm holding the space bar, and yep, that one's working too. So you got to inspect it all. Yep, it's working. All my tips are exactly where they should be. But I could not tell until I zoomed up to this level. When I zoomed up even more, look at what I'm discovering. And I know that I'm truly in there, but this might matter, right? So I might need to look at my shape and give it a different dimension, or select the whole thing and make it, a little bit smaller. But I didn't see that until I got this big. I'm gonna zoom, whoops. Oh, PC, sorry.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
Diane?
Yeah.
My star, you see how yours, the lines of it are perfectly straight,
Yeah.
but mine are a little bit askew, but it's still.
Yeah,
5-point
for
star.
now, don't worry.
Okay.
It was when I created it, I was holding down the option key and now I have a different star here. Hold on. I held down the option key and the shift key and I constrained it and I got those right ones. But if you just do a regular star, you'll end up with, like you said, with a, hold on, I need to get rid of all these points. You'll end up with a star. That looks like that, which
Like
is
that,
kind of like
yeah.
a gingerbread star. That's
Mhm.
okay. If you create that one from
That's what I did.
holding the constraining key and the shift key, then from option key and shift key, see, that's how I got my straight line star. And I let go of my mouse first, and there you go. I got my little straight line, because the shift key has that magic of creating things that are constrained. And so what happened? Oh my God, really? Please don't tell me I lost you. All the work I've done, I didn't save. I created the big mistake of working a lot on a document that I have not saved. Phew. The VDI thing. Let's go save, guys, in case this happens to you too. File, save. Save on computer. I'm on VDI right now. So remember, Jessica, if you're on VDI, you need to go over. Everyone else, save it wherever your files are. But for those of us who are not, you're going to go to Google Drive, my drive, because you need to save it on your personal drive, Jessica's drive, or Yana's drive, and then we'll find the folder. Here's my Spring Illustrator folder, and this is where I'm going to call this one. We're basically working on compound paths and teaching you other stuff, but that kind of gives an idea of what we're doing here. So let's say save. And yeah, so anyway, I was just saying the shift key constrains things, makes it's like, imagine the big old stern headmaster who wants everything to happen just the way the rules. So by pulling out a star, holding that key, it's like it fits into its little grid and becomes straight line. So anyway, All right, so now I'm gonna just knock these two out. I'm gonna select these two. And I'm going to go to the star tool here, and I'm going to hold down the option key and minus, and then I get that. You know what? That didn't work, and you know why? Why do you think that didn't work? Do I see a compound path here with the blue star? No, I see a bunch of individual, look, I can cut it off in little bits and pieces. I've got little stars. You want to venture? Say what's happening?
They
So
weren't both
alarm.
selected.
Say that again?
They weren't, the circle and the star were not both selected.
No, then nothing would have worked. So that's
Uh-oh.
not it. Good try.
I think it is because you pass over the line.
Yeah,
You
remember I
ended up
showed
cutting
you?
the whole circle.
Yeah, yay, so remember I showed you that I was way zoomed in. I was like this tid off. It doesn't matter. The shape has to be inside for that to work. So this didn't work. And so I'm going to do a Command Z until I don't. And now I will have to go and get that little star to be a little bit smaller. It was just a tish. There was like no way to see it, right? But it really did not, it was not inside enough, right? So I'm going to move it inside. Is that inside? I can't tell until I go really big, and I'm not sure. I think I left it inside now. Is that inside? Is it truly inside? Let me zoom even bigger. Is it truly inside? No. So when I get really big, it's not truly inside yet. See that? That is what didn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and go a bit more overtly inside, because I'm going to show you what the solution to this is. Command 0. I'm going to actually overtly make this like I can see from here that it's inside. I'm going to go hold Shift key and Option to keep it centered. I'm going to make it so that there's no question that it's inside, right? There's no question now that it's inside, right? So now I'm going to select both, and I'm not going to knock out that middle one. And now I have created a compound path. But because it's a compound path, if I really do want it now to touch the corners, I'm going to double click, get into isolation mode, select that star, and now Option and Shift, and now I can make it get a little bit bigger, because now it doesn't matter if my tips go over. See that? So now I can make it fit to the exact proportions where the compound path is already made. It doesn't undo itself because I stretch out. Okay. So anyway, there's my, let me change its color. Back to whatever red seems like the little texaco star red. Where are we at with time? It's break time, but let me so that T sits, it hides that tip, and it sits kind of in the middle of those two. So I don't even know if the T that I made proportionally will do the same thing, but I'll try. First of all, I'll select it and get rid of the stroke. And I'm going to move it in here, and I'm already hiding that tip, but then I'm going to make it bigger. So watch what's going to happen if I don't hold the Option key or the Shift key. If I hold the Shift key, it's going to get bigger, but it's going to get bigger towards the left side or the right side that I'm pulling it, right? But if I also hold down the Option key, it's going to grow and stay in that center, right? And so then I'm going to move it up a little bit, and I have a feeling that's about right. It's kind of in the middle. There we go. That's about right. Okay. Now, though, if I move this away, I leave my T behind, right? So don't forget that we got to select this whole thing and do what to it? If I don't want this to happen, what do I need to do? Hello?
You need to make sure that you are inside the circle. Otherwise, you're gonna end up cutting.
No, watch.
I would attach it with a shape builder tool,
I could.
or you could group it.
Here's why I'm hesitating about attaching it to the shape builder tool. If I'm sure that this is it and I'm ready to be present, like it's been approved and I don't have to change anything else, then yeah. But if I want each piece to still be separately workable, like if maybe I take it and my boss says, make the T fatter, make the T smaller, move this dart. If I want each element to still be workable, so basically it's not the final version yet. If I want it to still be workable, all I need to do now is group it. Select these two and group them, right? Control or Command G. And now they move, wait, I didn't. Select. Oh, that's true. Compound paths don't like to be grouped. I forgot. See how the choice grouping isn't happening? Oh no. Oh, grouped. Yeah, grouped. I was like, wait, there's one thing they don't like, but yeah, so there's my group of star with compound path. Okay, and I move it around. Now, why is this important? Let me put the same example. I'm going to hold down the Option key, drag the same example over here. And now I'm going to do a great idea. I'm going to do what Monica said. I'm going to use my shape builder tool and I'm going to join it all. Or in this case, since I'm going to join it all, what might be a little bit faster even would be to go and just say unite, right? I mean, I can, she said, well, grab the shape builder tool, and then I would have to go and click all the way around, get every little bit and piece, do that, and let go. And then we end up with like that space that what's going to happen with it. So in this case, it's cleaner to just, and I mean, had I not touched white, like, okay, had I touched only red, the white wouldn't be there, but I'd have to be careful versus Pathfinder unite. So this is a compound path. This is one shape. Look over here. This over here is going to allow me to turn into a JPEG, turn it into the logo that everyone uses. And this one, I can still drill into it and work on it as if it were a T or a star or a circle, modify the shape of my legs. Does that make sense, you guys? It just, while I'm working on it, it's more malleable still. Now, I got excited about the compound star when I suddenly saw the logo in my mind, but I was actually going to have you do a shape from here. So we will do that. I'm going to come back because I want to get to that. But go ahead, and if you made the good old Texaco logo, select it, make some screenshots of everything we've been doing, and then put them in the Padlet. Let me put again the Padlet link here. And then let's go take a break. I know some of you have been using it, have been doing the Padlet, but again, I'm kind of unable to show you for some strange reason the Padlet. Let me see if it fixed itself. I think it'll do the same thing where it's not letting me, I have to share in the other. Yeah, it's not showing me the images. I don't know why. So let me go to the other browser because I know you guys have been posting. Open the other browser again, share my other browser. And then refresh. And here we go. Some people are already posting their stuff. So you talk on that challenge. Look at him, how quick he is.
I did.
He said, which one is the original? Ah, now I need to know which one is the original. That is well done. You know what excites me? It excites me knowing that what I teach is working.
Of course. What's
love it.
depending?
I've had a couple of 3 times now this week. Something has happened where I just get so happy when I see people that are doing, and I'm gonna trust, of course, that he said it's not a copy, right? I'm gonna trust because you would look at it and go, it's a copy. So I'm really looking at it. This is the copy.
Yes, that's the one.
And do you want to know what's the only thing that gave it away?
The star button that is wider.
The what?
A little darker.
No, show again what you're saying, because it wasn't that, but tell me, what is it that you see?
What I think is the button where you just open or start the iPod.
Oh, that
A
button.
little wider.
Oh, I see.
That
Yeah,
one?
yeah, you're right. But then, nope, that wasn't it. So here's what gave it away. These little guys are smooth and this is jaggedy.
Yes.
A tiny little difference. And I'll teach you how to make these guys smoother, but that's the only reason I thought that this was the one. So anyway, well done. You guys keep trying and you'll be a Saul soon. Okay. Thank you guys for posting. Well done. Put your stuff in here. Show me your work. And
And I have a question to ask, but I know everybody's going on break. Do you want me to wait?
ask me, and then if it's a quick one, I'll do it.
I missed a thing because when I tried to like unite the star, the T, and the circle,
Mhm.
I got just a flood of red all the way across. And
Did you do it with the shape builder
I
tool
must
or
not
with the
have done.
Unite?
I tried both, so I must not have done the donut thing.
Maybe you never created the compound path?
No, yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
the
question
donut.
from earlier is how to create the compound because I missed that. And
Okay, so.
so I don't have a
basically,
compound.
It's possibly that's the reason. But since I wasn't that, now all you can do is do a Command or Control Z a few times to see if the history is still there for you, to undo that when it becomes red. And then go check your layers to see if you do have a compound path or not. And if you don't, then.
Well, I don't under layers for sure.
Okay.
So,
So,
but what I was asking originally is like, I'm not understanding how to make the compound.
got it. So go ahead and share your screen for a
Okay.
second. And then,
There it is, share screen.
Mhm.
Okay. Is it working?
Not yet.
Oh, no,
The
share.
first green button and then the second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me put this on the other screen where I can see it better so that I can give you some pointers. And here we go. All right, so I'm looking at the star. I'm falling. Cheers, falling. Okay, so now, right now you only have one element selected, which is the star, right?
Yep.
So now go ahead and shift click if you want the circle. So that gives you both of them. Shift.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Shift click. Now you got both of them. Now go to the Pathfinder tool.
Pathfinder tool.
On the left side on the toolbar, right above the gradient tool. That
Okay.
one.
Yep.
Mhm. Okay. Now put your mouse over the white stuff, which is the star. There we go. Now hold down the Option key
Mhm.
and see how it turns into a minus. Now
Mhm.
make a teensy little line there to say this star that I'm pointing to, get rid of it.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
So, my glasses are breaking.
And I can see how it now made
And
a
now
compound.
it turned
Oh, I
into a
see.
compound path,
Okay, thank you.
And then the T, you just join it as a group.
And I join, and how do I do that?
Now click away, right? Yeah. And now go back
Wait.
to your like selection. Yeah. And now click away a little bit. And now just grab,
Oh, wait, use this and click
yeah,
away.
good. And now just grab both the compound path and the T.
Using the.
No, select them. You're just selecting them to group them. So with selection tool, just do that
Okay.
little drag where you encompass everything that's there. Good. And now just group it. Either object group or Command G, or in the properties panel, the button that says group.
I see.
There you
Okay.
go.
Oh,
Now
there
you
we
have a
go.
little
Thank
group
you.
there. Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Perfect. Great question. Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, don't just sit there and not being able to do it. Please be like Gerard. Ask me again, because once I look at what you're doing, I can easily, tell you how to move your hands to get it done. So I don't know if some of you already left or not, because I kind of announced it, but I'm going to start the break from now. Can y'all give me a yes if you happily created your compound star with the group and the T and it worked? Give me a yes. And if you already went on break, that's fine. Let me see. It's 2:59. So let me say it's 3, and I'm going to say be back by 3:15 p.m. So that's the official break starting time. I'm getting yeses from most of you. As again, some of you might have stepped out. That's okay. See you guys in 15. All right, let's go back. Let's start again. Give me a sign of life. Let me clear your feedbacks that way. Now give me a sign of life. So I know it's a fresh sign of life. All right, my chair. I don't know if you guys see that I'm always doing this thing. What's happening is that I have a chair. Cute little hat. I have a chair. I have a tall standing desk, and some days I don't feel like standing. And then I sit on this chair, but it starts sinking. And so every time I feel like I'm craning my neck to talk to you guys, I push the chair up again. It's the second chair of this type that I have, and both of them do the same thing. My old one and my newer one. I'm like, come on, can't you make a chair that doesn't sink? Anyway, all right. I've seen cute little shapes and emojis and beanie hats and clapping. So we're all there. Okay, so Anna. Oh, I see. Let me read camera. Okay. Bug art pieces, compound path. Oh, okay. There you go. It might be that. Anna, you know, the bug that she was, let me share my screen. Not a bug as in a computer virus bug, but a bug as in she posted a picture of this one of the, and she was wondering what this was and wanted to help with it. So now she can't share her screen for me to help her hands-on figure out what it is, but she's guessing that maybe it's a compound path. I'm not sure because I don't see this here saying that it's a compound path, right? So just saying that the guess might not be so. On the other hand, I had asked her to share to see if I could help her figure out why it's not filling with white, but yeah, if you can't share your screen, then I can't help you. But that's fine. The more you learn about Illustrator, the more you'll try to be able to figure things out for yourself. But thanks for that message, Anna. And cool. And for those of you who, hold on, let me once again share. Let me get out of this mode and do a refresh, because hopefully the rest of you posted. There you go. So I have three, oh, here's more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Texaco stars. Oh, and so we'll hear you put in another logo for the Mexicana restaurant. And here, that's true, by the way. So I think I've seen it in other colors too. I think the Texaco is sometimes blue. I don't know, but anyway, here it's compound, but he left, you know, the colors in or not. Okay. Nice job. Now, back. Let's, I'm going to give you one more example here of how we can do this rather quickly. And then we're going to go back to the first two. So I'm going back to the second page, and this is kind of unnecessary. I'm going to select it and delete it. That was just showing what wasn't working. If you guys have a page that you can do that, but if not, just add another page, right? Because I don't want you to delete good stuff. I just wanted to show you one other feature of a small example of another feature of using this joint path. So like, I'm trying to think of the perfect example. There was one of these, I think one of these, I'm not sure which example I used last time, but imagine now, for example, just as a quick answer, hold on, it went too big. If I'm trying to create this blue wagon here, now, on the one hand, now you can see that I can create it by pen tool, 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 pen tool. That's fine. And when it's a simple shape like this, it's great. But I could also have created a couple of rectangles, a big one and a small one, join them, and then put in a shape. In this case, it's probably harder to find a shape that is like that, but if it were like a straight cut, have another rectangle here and then just minus it, and then you have that complicated shape. Does that make sense? Now, this isn't the one I'm talking about, but clearly this isn't an easier shape than having made a triangle. But I think it was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was these, yeah, this is an example of 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles, 4 circles that we joined, and then we knocked out 2 little circles, and that gave us that orange car, right? So it was all with the, I think you put 4 circles together and then you make 2 more, you join all of those and you knock these 2 out, and that's the body of the orange car. And then 2 circles that are the car and stuff like that. So this is something we did last class. So just consider then that what we just did helps you create shapes that might be more complicated to create from scratch. And let me be honest too. Some of us are using Illustrator and are awesome artists. Like we could grab a pen and pencil and draw this perfectly, right? And others of us are people who can do that with kind of pre-made shapes and ingenuity, but that might not from scratch been able to draw that out, right? And both are just as valid ways of using Illustrator, right? And if you're not good with the pen tool, then you get good at all these other options and tools. And if you're really good with the pen tool, you just go, hey, it's easier for me to just create it. Both ways. My son picks up the pen tool and makes marbles way beyond what I could ever imagine. And that's not good or better or worse. It's just a different tool base. But anyway, I just wanted to show how sometimes, and let me see if I can come up with the sample here. I was looking to see what the samples were. I think it was with the bird, those little birdies there. Again, try to create a semicircle, right? That's exactly good versus you create a shape, right? Then you create another shape that's there, and then you alter the position of that shape, and then you select both, right? And minus, first you select both, and then you choose the shape builder, and then you get to hold down the option key and get rid of these 2. And if this was the perfect shape of what you're looking to then put a little eyeball in here and make the bird, that would have been harder to create and measure that exact curve. You know what I'm trying to say? Than to just do it this way. And I'm going to, these birds had a lot of that going on with them. Like we had to create this little eyeball, we had to create this little wing, we had to create a couple, we had more options. There were like 5 or 6 options of different birds. And some of them included making some like fluid little shapes. And so, yeah, it was much easier to use these basic shapes and cut them out than to actually design them as they were. Okay, that's just wanted to throw out that this is a completely valid way of getting things done, as well as starting from scratch. All right, let's go back to the very first set, which hopefully you still have. Let's select it. Let's do a copy. So Command C or Control C if you are in a PC. Or if you don't like shortcuts, you can always go to, I believe it's Edit Copy. I kind of end up forgetting I rarely use these, so after a while I don't have to look around to see where it is. So Edit Copy. Now let's go to File New, because I don't want to keep adding. Let's make sure to save here again, Command or Control S, right? Or File, Save. And then let's go to File New. And if I do nothing, the default setting will start just like last time, which is 5 by 5 with 2 artboards, right? So yeah, go ahead and say create, because that's a good starting point for what we're going to do next. And then go ahead and do Control or Command B for paste. And here we have that first thing that we did. Okay, so we just went and did. Now, I already taught you last week, another option could have been that I could select this shape and I can go to my libraries, go to my Illustrator library, and okay, thank you. And then I could have just dropped this in there. And then if I can't copy paste because in the midst I made many other things, or this is 2 weeks later, then I can just go ahead and drag it out from there. And then here we go. Here's my shapes, right? So just another possibility. What's that? Yes, Gerard?
I was just gonna say, when we were learning how to cut and stuff, with
Mhm.
those two shapes. I didn't save those two shapes. I've just got all the disparate pieces on my artboard.
Okay, so just make a circle and then
You just
make
do it
another,
again.
just drag another one and that's it. I mean, literally that, we went through
Okay.
many options of it, but make one circle, then hold down the option key and drag it, out.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's the shape, right? Give it two colors and that's it. So yeah. If anyone else is in that position, and I kind of said, yeah, leave them there, but since we cut them up in so many ways, probably when you go back, yours are all cut up. Then just make a circle and copy it and let's head over here. But here's where it's going to matter that they be on the same line, because now what we're going to do, we're going to select that. And we're going to want to keep only the intersection. Okay. So if I were to want to keep only the intersection, what options do I have here? I showed you two ways. And one thing I didn't show you before is that both will give us a different result. Let me actually show you both by actually myself doing a copy of this over here. And then I'll show you the result of both methods. So I've shown you two ways of how to easily get this intersection. Who wants to walk me through one of them? Echo.
One is you go
Thank
to the Pathfinder and
Path-
go to the-
Pathfinder there.
Yes, that one.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And you do the third one with the colored.
The third one, choose. Perfect. Intersection. Awesome. Great choice. Let's select the next set. Someone else? Unless Monica's the only brave enough, but someone else walk me through making the intersection with another tool.
Okay, I'll be brave. You want
Thank
me
you.
to be brave?
Yeah, go for it,
Okay,
Monica.
so go to the shape builder tool
Shape builder tool.
and my hands are busy. I can't do it right now. You are gonna hover over it and hold the option key to get the minus
Yep,
sign
option key. Mhm.
and do that with the green part and then go over to the
Okay,
other
get
side
rid of the
to
green.
orange part.
Perfect. And get rid of the yellow. Perfect. Good. These are the two ways I've taught you. That said, these have produced two different results, believe it or not. I'm going to go to I have 3 objects here. And I just started from 0, which is why I wanted to make a new document so that we didn't have like hundreds of objects. I have 3 objects here. 2 of them are yellow, 1 is green. Let me explain. I'm going to undo for a second. And let me go to the first option. When I used this one, Monica, thank you for leading us to the right one. So when I click to intersect, I am left with, oh, and now I have to, these are the other 2 eyeballs. So when I am left with is one shape. If I move it around, those 2 pieces intersected and created one. Okay. Let me turn on the eyeball of this. When, on the other hand, I select these 2 and I do the shape builder, think about it. Here, I'm telling it, give me the intersection. It's a direct command. I got an intersection. But here, what I'm saying is, hold on the option key, get rid of this piece of green and get rid of this piece of yellow. So what's left is the piece of yellow and the piece of green. Does that make sense? I was left, if I got rid of this and got rid of that, I still have that little bit of green down there. Does that make sense? Just to help you think a little bit more about how the tool works. It gets rid of what you don't want. Perfect. But I never told him that I didn't want that green, and I couldn't do that. There's no way to go and access that little bit and get rid of what's underneath, because this is in front. I would have to get rid of the one that's in front, right? Which in this case, they're identical, just a different color. So I could easily just select one hit delete, and I'm left with the other, and I've got one, which is my goal. Does that make sense?
So it's
But-
like having papers on top of each other and you've cut and then,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. So just showing you that although we ended up with the same result, sometimes things that look like they are two ways of doing the same thing, just because of how you create them, might end up not being the same thing. Does that make sense? So anyway, and that's why when I go over here, I end up with 3 intersecting pieces because one is on top of the other. Now let's move it out. And now those are visibly our 3 intersecting pieces, right? All right. I wanted to take us for a second back to the last example. We're gonna continue in here. So don't get rid of this. This is the rest of today. But let's go back here because one more thing that I noticed I didn't do when I was here. I forgot to do one thing. Let me undo this, and you can, given the time that's left, let me just show this to you, and then you guys can do it. 2 shapes. Remember how I just selected both, went here and got rid of the top, right? You saw that. I'm left with 1 shape. So you saw that. I'm going to undo that. And there is another option where I could use the Pathfinder, right? And remember that when I hovered over these, it says click to unite, and then I told you ignore the rest of the writing. But if you actually read the rest of the writing, it says alt click, or if you're on a Mac, it'll say command click to create a compound shape. So yes, you can create a compound shape with this as well. So when I had this star inside of the circle, let me just put this guy here. It doesn't matter that it's not a star. When I have these 2 here and I select them, if I were to want to make that whole, we had decided that it would be minus front, right? I get rid of this orange and I'm going to get a whole. There you go. Now, it's a compound shape because it was a whole, right? So I didn't do any alt click or anything. Now, what if, and I noticed I skipped this, remember that when we had a shape that was outside of a hole? What if I wanted to create a compound shape with these 2 without it being inside of the hole kind of thing, right? So then if I actually click to minus front here with holding the alt key or option key, and then I click, then I got the result. I got rid of it, but I did get the compound shape, no matter that it wasn't perfectly inside. So let me explain that one more time, and maybe using the same example. When I made a circle, right? And then I made a star, but I put the star, give it a different color. But when I put the star outside, oh, sorry. Here, there's an example of staying in the, when I put the star outside, remember that little tip that was, I kind of was focusing on the text cycle thing and I forgot to show you this. So when I tried to make this with the shape builder tool, right? Remember, minus, select them first, shape builder tool. When I tried to do a minus here, I was left with little bits and pieces and not a compound path, right? And I said, you can't do that, it was sticking out. Since we went down to create the logo, I forgot to show you that yes, you can make this into a compound path if you use the Pathfinder and hold down the Alt or the Option key if you're on a PC, on a Mac. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that here. I want that star to be gone, but I want it to stay as a compound path. So holding down the Option key, I click there. And so now I get that result, which is I got rid of the star, but I still have the compound path. So I didn't, just by using it with that tool instead of with the other tool. So again, they're a little bit different. And what's the advantage of this? that I can now grab that star, double click, enter isolation mode, and now move that star around until I find the perfect position for it. Does that make sense? So you can create compound shapes that don't like sit inside of the shape well. You can do that, right? But you have to create it with an alt click or option click, okay? If that made sense to you, you got it. Maybe you even tried it. Give me a yes before I go back to our little intersections. It's an important tip that I had skipped when we got onto this conversation. Got it. Okay, so, all right. So I'm going to save that again, and then let's move over to this guy. And in case we get a glitch again, let's just save it from the start. Let's say save, and what we're going to do here is a flower. So I'm going to write flower. Let's say save. Okay. But we're going to learn a couple of different tools and things to help us create that flower. Okay, so back here, reminder, this left us with one petal. These are petals, and this left us with two petals. Now, since I told you grab one and move it around, maybe you did it too. It's already kind of lost its perfect alignment. Before we had a perfect alignment, it was exactly there and I could have used it. But let's go ahead and get rid of one of them because at this point it's easier than trying to realign them to just get rid of it. And now we have basically two identical ones, okay? I'm gonna do it here on the second page, I guess. Now, let's first one. That'll be the actual flower. Here we're gonna do a teensy bit more learning. We're gonna do a teensy bit more learning here, and then we'll create our flower over there. Okay, so grab this first page, the first one, and let's make it be not so symmetrical, and you'll see why later. So again, let's say that I want to make one side different than now it's perfectly symmetrical. For my example, I want to teach you how I want to have a shape that's not symmetrical. So I've shown you, I can think of 3 things that I've shown you, although there are many other ways of making this not be symmetrical. Does anyone want to just guess it? I've probably shown you 5 ways already. Any answer is correct. How would I not make this symmetrical? Something we learned today, something we learned last week.
You could pull like one of the, oh, you said not symmetrical, never mind.
Keep talking, maybe you're in the right direction. I could pull.
No, I was gonna pull one of the anchors, but still makes it equal on both sides.
Just in case, I'm gonna click on one of the anchors and.
Oh, that way, yes.
Okay, so that's not what you meant?
No.
You were saying click on with the black selection tool.
Oh,
will
yes.
Still make it symmetrical, you're right. But since I was hoping for the other answer,
Yes.
I actually gave one of the methods away, which is white selection tool. Click on this anchor and just do that. There you go, non-symmetrical, right? Or just click on this guy and do that, right? There you go, non-symmetrical. So I gave away the answer because I knew what was the right answer, or one of the many right answers is just grab something and make it non-symmetrical, right? Because we now know how to alter shapes. Just quickly to say, what if the example that we just had, and again, I have a little start, just grab this, select both, and cut a little chunk out, right? There you go, cut a little chunk out of it. That would be another possible way, right? Anyway, so for this example, I kind of would like a more intrusive change. But let me show you one final way that I taught you last week. And again, just as review, I'm going to select this shape. And remember that you can also use the pen tools to add or delete paths. So I could just go to either of the pen tools for this. And I'll just put my mouse right here and I'll go ahead and add 2 or 3 little paths here. Then I go back to the white selection tool and I can just make it have a little jutting or a little innie or something like that. So remember that you can add or delete to make new shapes. So go ahead and do one of those many. I just showed you 3 that we just learned. I'm sure there's some others. And make something that's not completely symmetrical, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay. Give me a yes when you all have a non-symmetrical little shape. By the way, all these things I'm showing you are beginning to show you how you could turn this little petal into like a palm leaf or a, you know, all these tools mean that you start with something and you modify, and you end up with other shapes. Hopefully you guys will.
How did you add the dark squares again? I forgot.
How do I add those little paths? I just selected the here.
You select a shape.
I select the shape. Then I went to one of the, I chose the
Pens.
curvature one. It could have been either one. And then you hover over the path. See, whenever you touch the
Oh,
path.
I see. That's right. Okay.
Here, instead of having an asterisk, when I touch the path, I get a plus sign. See the tool? And then I can click. But it has to be on the path. If I do it a little bit off, then I'm not, you know, then, and I just created 3 because 3 gives me that center point. Then I went, and by the way, because I chose the curvature tool, I don't need to change tool. I can just grab it and move it in or out just using the curvature tool, right? And then if I double click on it, then I get it to be a hard shape. And if I double click on that one and double click on that one, and suddenly I have like a little divot in there. Anyway, that's the shape I end up with. And you can make any shape, but I want it to be very clear that left and right are different. So I don't care what shape you ended up with, give me or what method you used or whatever you did, give me a yes if you all have a non-symmetrical shape here on this first page. Don't modify both. I do want a symmetrical shape for the flower, but all right, I guess I'm getting yeses. Gerard, you're working on it.
Yep.
Amber. Okay, I won't wait on Amber, but if you're there, give me a yes. All right, and cool. So here we go. We have this little shape, and I'm going to now. I've taught you already that with the bounding box, I put my mouse on the corner, some like a 1/4 of an inch away, and I can twist it, right? So try that. Now, where is it twisting from? It's kind of twisting from its center point, isn't it? Like the center point is staying exactly in the same spot. So now I'm getting no movement, so to say, right? Of the shape. Now Amber in, who just got dropped out, and here she comes again. Okay, so that's fine. If I want it to stay in the exact same spot, that's good. But what if I'm trying to create a different effect? What if, let's go down to this tool here, which is the rotate tool. It's right under the type tool. Click on the rotate tool. And first, before you use it, just watch, okay? I'm just gonna Control Z so you can see a bit better. Now that I grabbed the rotate tool, notice that, let me actually move to this tool. I don't see anything in the center, yet it rotates from the center, okay? But I don't see a little kind of X on the center. Now, instead, I'm going to choose the rotate tool. And the first thing that happens is that now I don't have a bounding box, but I have a little marking in the center. I don't know if you can see it. You see that little marking? Maybe if I change the fill color, you'll see it better. Can you, there you go. Pink. Now you see that little green spot there?
Mhm.
That's pointing the center. And that's the moment I select the rotating tool. So let's see what this rotating tool can do. First of all I'm going to do is put my mouse, I'm going to put it here on the fill right now. And then I'll show you that it doesn't matter where you put it. And I'm going to click and drag, and whoa, exactly the same thing as before. Woohoo, she's showing me 2 ways of doing the same thing. What's the point? I can put my mouse here and I can even rotate it. See how I'm not selecting the color now, and yet I am still managing to rotate this thing. Yeah. So once again, no matter where I click, once I click on this, I can touch anything. It doesn't matter. Now, always try to avoid anchors and paths because now and then they'll do something weird, but I could even click on an anchor and a path and it's rotating. Okay, woohoo. Same thing, only more complicated, but watch. If instead, when I first, let me deselect again, and now watch. I'm going to select the shape. Rotate tool. Just watch the steps. Now, before I rotate, I'm going to click over here. Just single click, boom, single click. What happened to that center point? And again, it's hard to see, but it moved to where I clicked. Now, I'm going to click and drag, and I'm rotating, and that's the center point.
Oh.
Pretty cool, right? I moved my center point. Again, how did I do that? I'm going to undo, 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 undo. There we go. So it's the first click. When I first grab the rotate tool, I don't drag, I click. Now I'm going to click, watch. I'm going to click on this anchor right there. Boom. I clicked on that anchor. Now I rotate from that point. No matter where I click, I can rotate from a certain point. Now this becomes much more interesting. And I'll show you some other tricks now as to why that becomes interesting, but pretty cool, huh? Is it working? If it's working, give me a yes. Oh, let me clear your answers because those yeses are from before. Now, if I click again, single click, be careful because now I've moved the center point without meaning to. So you can only click and drag when you want to move it and single click when you're ready to move the center point, because you might have not noticed, but every time you single click, you move that center point, right? So it's the moving it is with the dragging, and the single click changes that center point, and then you go and you move. Yes, Monica?
So I changed my shape using the white direction tool.
Mhm.
And then I selected it with the selection tool, went to the rotating thing, and the handles appeared again. And when I started to rotate, it actually changed the shape.
Then you probably still had the white tool. Like it just,
I'll do it one more time.
and you want,
You're
how
right.
about you share your screen, because sometimes something weird is happening, but otherwise you probably changed and then it went back to the selection tool. Go ahead and share your screen. All right, so let's try that again. You selected it,
Good. I
and
go
now
to-
go to your rotate tool.
See, there are the handles. Just show up.
Okay, go ahead and select I see that. Go back to the, you might have had might have had left one anchor selected. Go back to that. Yeah. And now click away. And now select again. Make a clean selection of your shape. You got to click on it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Now let's see if that does it again. No, there you go. Now it works. You had come
Wow.
you had come from the white selection tool and you had left an anchor, the one that you used to modify selected. So even though you changed tool, that one anchor point was still trying to be modified selectively. That's why I have to see you guys do the work for me to know what's happening, right?
Okay,
There you go.
thank you.
Then I can kind of guess. Instead of guessing wildly, I see you do it and then I know what's happening. So anyway, for anyone who ever hesitates to share, it's much faster. When I see what's happening, I can immediately diagnose it. I might have made a good doctor. I don't know. Anyway. All right. Give me, I'm not sure if I already asked you to give me a yes for this one. So give me a yes if you were able to rotate and change that center point willy-nilly everywhere, just exactly the way you want it. From whatever point of the shape that you want. And I'm getting yeses all over. Amber, how's it for you?
Oh yeah, I already answered yes to that.
Great. I just didn't remember since I started talking to Monica. All right, good. Cool. So that's the whole center point thing. And in a way, that's partly my when you move something that's symmetrical or perfectly circular, you don't see the effect of this, which is why I wanted something that had a little divot or a shape or something. Okay, great. Cool. Now, yeah, well, what else can I do? That sounds good, but now I've lost the aha moment. Show me something else that's cool. All right. Under, under this tool, if I click and hold, there's a couple of other choices, right? And right now I'm going to go to this one, the reflect tool. That was the rotate tool, which has the R. So since the R already took it, the reflect tool can't use the R. So there's a bizarre little shortcut, and O gives you the reflect tool, which is just because there's no R. So there you go. Reflect tool. Okay. So now, once again, first I'm going to leave the center point where it is. It exactly the same, operates exactly the same, but this time when I click and drag, I get a reflect. And this is where that divot matters, because when I twist it now, my divot ends up in the wrong side. So look at that. When I first created this shape, I'm going to undo. When I first created this shape, put it back into the position of how you created it, because then you'll remember it better. I created it, divot to be on my top right. If you have it in a different position, you might not notice. But when you reflect it, then by clicking and dragging, see how now my divot is on the left? It's not a rotation, it's an actual reflection. Does that make sense, you guys? That's the reflect tool. But like before, it's reflecting from the center point that we have right there. So if I click and drag, I get it to reflect. If I were to now single click from here, when I reflect, then my reflect, it's like rotating and reflecting. Does that make sense? If this is like, what? It's all the same. I don't know what you're talking about. Give me a no or speak up. But if you got it and, oh, okay, I see what's happening, give me a yes. And it works the same way. I click to move the center point, and then I hit and click and drag, and there I get my reflect. But since it kind of ends up all over the place as I'm dragging, then you might need to like so with a lot of reflections, I ended up in the same place I started, right? And I go back and forth, back and forth. And again, I can keep reflecting it as many times as I click and moving the center point back and forth. All right, good. I'm gonna, I want to leave this, I'm going to start with it the same way I was, just so that you guys can see. So, and I was in this position to start with. Okay, so that's the reflection tool. Great. Okay, funny, funky. If you try the rest of these, they'll do the exactly the same thing. So I'm going to stop with these two only, but if you want to scale something instead of from the center or from the whole bounding box, you say you want to scale it from, say, there, and I click over here, then when I try to do a scale, it kind of, that's its center point to scale from. But anyway, let's just, I'll let you play with the rest a little bit, because now they all work the same. Basically, all those work the same way. So now let's go back to the basic one, and then you can play on those other ones on your own, because I want to show you something else that I haven't shown you yet, which is I'm kind of went back to my original so that it's easy to see what's happening. This is my original. Let's do something here, which was when I hold down the Option key, what's going to happen? What do I get when I hold down the Option key and I click and drag? I get a duplicate, right? Y'all remember that? Okay. Now, when I hold, let's go back to the rotate tool. Select this shape and click and drag rotate tool. Okay. Select the shape and rotate tool. If the Option key gives me a copy and I hold it now that I'm in the rotate tool, when I go ahead and create that, make that rotation happen, hold on, cancel, make sure I'm in the rotate tool. I'm going to start the rotation. Let me put the, I'm going to just put here, I'm going to put my center point on one of the tips, just so that it's a bit cleaner. I put the center point right there. That's my click. Now, when I drag, remember, I'm moving it. Well, look, when I start dragging, if I now hold down the Option key, I made a copy. So I'm using both of the things that I've taught you, both the drag, the rotate tool, and the Option. When I let go of my mouse, I got the copy that's rotated. Now I do another drag. Right, so first you do the drag. First you do the drag. Oh, sorry. I clicked by mistake, and so I moved my center point to the wrong place. So ideally, you don't click again because you want the center point to be always identical. Now that I move it, it might not be perfectly symmetrical, but anyway, now you drag again and then hold down the Option key. So you first start the drag, and then you hold down the Option key. So once again, let go of the Option key. Option or Alt for PCs. Start your drag, hold down the Option key, and then one stays and the new one comes out. So again, and okay, so you can see the power of this, right? I keep trying to use the Mac shortcuts. I will forever. When it's not, when you move away, like you need to recenter it. Move it away. So with this kind of strange little shape, I made a kind of a pinwheel. And your shape might be so different that it doesn't look like anything, but I managed to get this little rotation happening, plus duplicating. Now this would be hard to draw. Up until now, we've making things that, you can kind of draw it with a pen tool, but can you imagine drawing this out from scratch? And this wasn't perfectly symmetrical. If you do this and you hold down the Shift key, okay, I'm going to undo. Remember, what does the Shift key constrains? So I'm going to click down here. I'm going to start dragging. Hold down the Option key, I get the duplicate. Hold down the Shift key, and that forces it to be only 75 degrees or 90 or 135. So you can even constrain it to fall in the exact place you want it to. So now I'm going to make it hit there. Then I'm going to drag the next one, hold down the Option key, and have it be exactly at 45 degrees. Now drag out, hold down the Option key, then hold down the Shift key. Now it's 45. You see that? Now I can actually make it be precise. Option, Shift. Let go of Option, Shift. Drag to start the rotation. Now hold down the Option to get my duplicate, and then hold down the Shift so that my new one stops at exactly 45. You don't have, this third one is a little bit optional, but just showing you the same things I've been teaching you, showing you the power of these little shortcuts, which repeatedly, no matter what tool you take on, keep doing the same thing. Does that make sense? This one stopped at, which is more powerful than just grabbing this and doing a little like boundary box shift. Does that make sense? Now you have some control over where things go. This is not the way we're going to make the flower with that, but you could right now imagine that with these tools, you could click on that and then begin to create a little, begin to create a little rotate tool. A little flower of this. I'm just going to show it to you while I do this and you're working on it. But you can see now how I can very quickly get a little flower out of this shape, right? Imagine if I continued going around. Anyway, I'm going to undo that because I wanted us to leave that there. If you guys want to play around with another shape because you're moving forward a little bit faster, please keep making some other pages and try this with other shapes. All right, feedback. Did that like combination of click this, click that, it all work for you? Again, I don't expect you to remember a lot of these shortcuts on your own, but just keep remembering what each shortcut which each key tends to do. The Option or Alt gives me duplicates or turns my tool into a negative, into a minus, right? Those are the two things that tool does. And so try it and see if with the tool you're working, if you get it to work backwards, so to say. you know, minus versus plus, or if it duplicates. And then the shift tends to constrain and hold things kind of in its place. So when you combine both, plus one of the many tools we have, then that tool operates in all of these different ways. Yes, Moni? Give me a yes. Give me a yes if this worked for you. If you don't have any questions, give me a yes. Meanwhile, yeah, Moni?
So I wanted to just check because I think I'm doing an extra step. So
Okay.
when I have
You
my
want to,
shade.
you know what? Sharing
Yeah.
is caring.
Okay.
When it comes to these movements, I know that I have to see it. I have to see it because that's when I figure out what's wrong. Otherwise, the description is, you won't describe what's not working. I will, you know, because you'll think it's working and I'll have to see it. Okay.
Okay, so let me see, I'm in my, so I click on here.
Mhm. You
And then I
moved your
do
center
my-
point.
Yeah, so then I do my alt, right? And then I've got my 45 degree with the shift. So then I have to click again.
No.
Okay, so I
That's-
just do, that was my question because I kept
Yeah.
clicking.
Don't
So-
click again. So try it now.
So now I just do the alt to move it again.
I first move it, then I hit Alt. See, so cancel. Because now what you did, but it turned into a click and you moved that center point, which you shouldn't have. See there?
Okay, so, I have
So
to do-
now first drag. Now hold down your Alt.
Oh,
Now let go of the Alt, drag again.
okay,
Now
that's what
hold
it
down
is.
the Alt.
Okay, so
Okay,
yeah,
it's just a shift order. Because otherwise,
Okay.
when you do that single click, you move that center point. And ideally, you don't want to keep making that center point go there because the chances that you're hitting the exact same pixel line, you'll
yeah,
end up having a little bit of a wonky thing. So you don't want to keep moving that. So let's try that again. Move it
Okay.
first. Move it first.
okay. So I'm doing the,
Making the movement. So drag. Now hold down your Alt
got it.
and now let go of your mouse.
All right,
And if you wanted it to stop at exact moment, then also you can hold the shift.
got it. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. Did someone else speak up to say something? No. And that was so useful because you're good at asking. I'm sure two other people at 3 were doing the same thing. And since you asked, it got explained for someone else. Yes, Amber?
It feels like I'm doing the thing I just watched her do, but mine disappears when I let go of the Alt.
Go ahead and can you share your screen?
Oh, I can't. I separated them because my computer keeps
Oh,
crashing.
that's true. Then try your best to describe step by step what's happening. See if I can recreate it so that I can try to guess at what's happening with you. Okay.
First,
so-
I pick my center point,
Hold
and
on. Let me
then
put this out. So you select the shape, you choose your thing, and you put your center point where?
at the bottom,
At one of the tips, okay? Click center point.
and then
yeah.
I move, click all. It starts the second one.
You-
I let go
you
of
move
all.
it. Click Alt, and then you let go of what?
Then I let go of Alt.
No, let go of the mouse.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was disappearing, and that's fine.
Yeah, because you first let go of the Alt, which is what makes it double.
Yeah, okay.
So by
I
the
see
time you
now.
let go of the mouse, right? So that's why the order. Thank you. You described it well enough that I was able to actually diagnose without having to see it. Well done. And when I say exactly what, now you hear what I mean by describe exactly what you're doing, then I can kind of figure out what's missing, right?
Mhm.
Cool. All right. Good job. You're all really good at figuring things out. Trust me, when I have a big class, this takes a long time because for some people also it's a matter of coordination. And you know how some people are good at manual activities and some are not. And it's a simple, not that they're good or bad at Illustrator, but a lot of people can knit and others can't even imagine how to put a little loop because your expertise is in some other part of your body, right? So this takes coordination. When do I let go of what? When do I click what? And so anyway, good. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna move over to this little guy. And by the way, I didn't ask all of you to give me a yes on this one, but are we ready to move on? Everyone kind of mastered it. People who needed to figure out how to do it have asked me, or is anyone still shying away, not wanting to ask? Because, hey, she said it 3 times, I should know it by now. Don't, please ask me. If that's you, please ask me. I want you to master this because it's simple. If you ask me the question, I can simply explain it. If you don't ask me, it's a very complicated movement. So give me yeses if you've mastered it. Gerard, Jessica. I know now that Moni and Ember did it because we did it together. Monica. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, guys, let's move over to this old little petal that we left hanging out here. All right. I don't know what color you did your petal. That's great. We're going to play around with it later. Just, it doesn't matter. Now put it somewhere kind of halfway down. Remember that the size we made it, it should be okay to put it kind of halfway down here. Now, when we made it, it was exactly symmetrical. If you hadn't made those 2 circles symmetrical and moving flash, then a lot of people, what ends up happening is they have something that looks almost right, but then when they try to do the symmetry, it was like slightly off, and then the flower looks really wonky. Not wonky in a good way. This is not a bad kind of wonky. It's a wonky that doesn't match, that looks kind of off, but you don't know why. So that's why symmetry matters here. All right, let's grab that rotate tool. Let's click on the anchor as centered as we can. And let's bring out 1 copy. So I'm going to start dragging, rotate tool. Yep. So start dragging. And then hold down your option key. And then move it all the way to the top. And if you're not sure if you're leaving it at exactly the right spot, when you're around here, hold down the shift key so that you truly get that 180. When everything is completely exactly symmetrical rotation with the 180 and all of that, what do I let go first? What do I let go of first?
Mouse.
Mouse. Let go of the mouse, then let go of the keys. Thank you. So you should have something that's, and I moved my mouse, so actually of all people, mine was not symmetrical because I was trying to turn off your guys's responses. So I'm going to do that one again. I'm going to drag up. I'm going to hold down my option key and I'm going to put it upside down. And now I'm going to let go of my mouse when it still says 180. And there it is. Now it's perfect. And I know it's perfect because I don't even have to guess. If all of that happened, it is perfect. I can put out grid lines, by the way. There's ways to put to turn on grid lines that I haven't shown you yet. We're not going to use them, so let me do a quick little explanation. If I do a view, just watch this piece, view guides, right? And I say view guides, I need to then view the rulers, so show rulers. Then I can put my mouse in one of these rulers and drag out something called a guide. And if now I were to put that guide there and I match it, you can see that it's absolutely perfect, right? And then you can, so there's like all these things you can use to help you, but I'm going to undo that because if you actually, sorry, one less, we do rotate. If you do things with these tools, you know that it's symmetric too, but you can use guides to help you. Anyway, we're not going to use guides today. All right, so we got the little set of 2. If I were to grab it and move it, it's like, oh, it's a disaster. You can probably not put it in the right place again. So Command Z, that works. All right, so I want to make this I want to make them be stuck together. I want to be able to move them and have them move at the same time. What should I do? Hello, someone other than Monica who is awesome. And I know that it'll be the right answer, but I want to involve a few other ones of you. Yeah, Moni is waving. What's up?
Okay, my assumption is we select them together and then do under the Pathfinder, do the click to unite.
Got it. And you know what? I explained myself incorrectly then. I want these to remain as individual elements.
Oh,
but I want to be able to move them without separating them. Thank
then
you.
grouping them.
grouping them. Yeah, I made it too complicated in my explanation, right? So click over here, select both, and then if you like shortcuts, Command Control G. If not, down here, since I have two things selected, suddenly the possibility to group shows up, which wasn't there before until you select two things. Or you can go up to Object, Group. Those are the three ways to group. So, okay, I'm going to hit this one, Group. Let's open this little, the layers. Well, not yet, but right now we had 2 leaves. And now where's a group with 2 leaves, okay? So now I'm going to, just to make my layers a bit easier to understand, I'm going to go grab everything else that's here and turn them into a group as well, Command G or something like that. And I'm just doing that so that over here, it's a bit easier to distinguish because we're going to do some stuff with the green ones and I want the pink ones to not be like a distraction. Okay, so now we have a little group. Good. Now watch. I'm going to grab the rotate tool. These two operate as one now. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click and drag, hold down my Alt key, keep moving, hold down my Shift key until I see the 90, let go of my mouse. Perfectly symmetrical, completely how do you call it? Identical, symmetrical duplication and rotation at the same time. Right? Did that work? If you got here and you're totally good, give me a yes. When you look at your layers, you got 2 groups now. One little horizontal, one little vertical one, right? And the pink one. I'm going to turn the eyeball off so it doesn't like get in there. Got 2 green, in my case green, whatever color you made yours, 2 of these petals. All right. Guess what? I'm going to join those 2 groups again. And I'm going to, so now I have to select one of these 2 petals, not those, because this is one group and this is another group, right? So if I just do this, I got my 2 groups selected. Group them again. So this time, this little button is like, I don't know what you're trying to do. See, these aren't all knowing. Are you trying to ungroup them because it's a group? I'm like, no, I want to group them again. So now I really need to either Command or Control G, or I have to go up here and choose the choice to group. Because as I said, the properties gives you the most typical group options, but it doesn't assume that if you select something as grouped, it only thinks you want to ungroup it. So now you've created another group. Look at my layers. I'm down to one layer, one thing again. Right, one group with these 4 petals. Go to the rotate tool, start rotating, hold down the Alt key, and now hold down the Shift key so that it forces it to a 45 degree. Now let go of your shape. Now there's one thing I did a bit wrong here. It's not wrong, but I forgot to have us do something. I'm going to have us do it now. So basically I went from 1 petal to 8 petals, all symmetrical really quickly, didn't I? Yeah. And over here, now I have those 8. Before I continue much further, well, first of all, let's select both of these groups and head over here to the opacity. This is the part that I forgot because it's showing. And instead of having them be solid, let's have them all be a little bit less than opaque. So maybe 70, I don't know, 60, 80 something. Just bring it a bit down. Why am I doing that? Because now you got that second design that's taking place with the overlapping portions. And I should have had you guys go less opaque. Let me just move this one out for a second. And here it didn't happen. I'm going to undo that because I did it to one group. So select the other group. Had I selected both groups, that would have been enough. Oh no, I did have both. Do I have both? Oh, I did remember to select both groups. Okay, both groups are doing that. Now, I also didn't really want this black stroke. I usually have us change the preferences, the appearances at the beginning. So select everything again, right? Make sure that both of your groups are selected, and then I'm gonna leave a stroke, but I'm gonna make it smaller. But first, let's change the color. I have my flower or my petal was green. I'm gonna go with maybe a little darker green or a little light blue or something, maybe. And then I'm gonna make it really tiny. And there's less than 1 point. If you go up, there's even tinier. So I'm gonna go with like the tiniest one that's available here. So now when I click away, that's just a subtle little indication of a line. I could do it without strokes, but that sometimes helps us when we're learning. It helps us to kind of see that shape a little bit with a stroke. Yeah, Moni? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. I had a question about the groups when you brought up the other, you went up to, was it Windows and got grouping or something like that?
Oh, I went up to file group. So let me,
File. Okay.
yeah. So you select it and then go to, not file, sorry, edit. No,
Select
file, object. I always forget the short because I always do Command or Control G.
Okay.
Object. But if you have it selected, then you'll be able to group. Right now, I don't have anything selected, so it's grayed out, right? So if I have something selected, it works.
I just
Now, now you can do it again. You can select both and regroup them and do it again if you want, right? So I can make, first I want to show you the layers. So now I'm left with 2 big groups of 4, right? And then if I want to, why not? Let's group them again. And now I'm down to 1 group of 8 again. Yeah. And now let's rotate 1 more time, which by the way, at this point, we could be doing something else, but I just, rotate 1 more time, hold down the Option key, and then hold down the Shift key so that I get, a perfect little, and I'm trying to figure out what that setting would be. The Shift key might not help us right now because I think that's not one of the, but what is helping me, guys, the Shift key isn't helping me because if I hold the Shift key, it's trying to make it be either, corner or whatever, but look what's helping me. I know where to stop because, right, I just had it a second ago. What I get is the two intersecting pink lines. I got him for a second there, now I lost him, but I get the two green, the two intersecting, what am I trying to say? Smart guides, the little pink ones that appear and disappear, right? Over there. And for some reason, there. There I've got both of them. See that? It's telling me that it's exactly right. So I let go of my mouse first. And then I let go of my tools. So at this point, it's it's getting pretty pretty heavy. One thing that I could have done, and I can still do, and that hopefully many of you guys do, is I could have been coloring these petals differently, but since we're making groups of them, it would be very hard to select this petal and give it a different color, right? So what we can do is to do this now, to select one of the layers and give them a different color. What are we going to have to do? So now the last one I did again. So now we're 2 groups of 8. You could have left it in 4 groups of 4, whichever. I have 2 groups of 8. What I could also do is select the entire, I have 2 groups, right? So this is 8 of them. I can go over to the fill and decide that these are going to be orange. I don't know. I'm just using the pre-selected colors here, maybe yellow, I don't know, dark orange. I don't know which one works with green, or maybe just a darker green. I don't know, blue. I think that works a little bit better. I don't like any of these colors. So what did I teach you is you can modify it, right? So I can like double click on this and modify it this way, which is a little bit harder, but I can do that. Or I can go over here, double click there, and then it's pretty easy to choose a little light blue and say, okay. So now I got a little light blue there. Now, what changed is the entire group. Now I have a blue group of 8 and a blue group of green. But maybe what I want is individual petals to have different colors. Or maybe every 2 or every 4, like my groups have 8 petals now. What if I wanted 4 of these to be a dark blue and 4 of these to be a light blue? What should I do right now? You guys know it, just think through. And how about neither Monica nor Moni? There's Anna, Gerard, Jessica, Amber. There's 4 more of you guys. Just throw out. Yeah.
Do you double click on a single leaf and double click again?
Thank
Double click
you.
again.
And I'm going to go ahead and open the layers just so that we see it happening here. I'll double click and I'm clicking on the blue one. If I were to pull the green one, that would be that one. I'm clicking on, let's say, the second blue one, this one. I'll double click again. Now I've isolated that inner 4 group that I had. Remember that I kept doing groups inside of groups. So now I've got that second group of 4. So now I select it. And what I'm selecting is a group of 4. So when I go change this and I want to make it a different tone of blue, I can now go over here and then say that I'm going to have a more deeper, I don't know, tone of blue, right? Then I select this one and it's my group of 4, but I'm selecting individually because the core of this was 2 of them. And I click on that and I make this one be, I don't know, maybe even darker. Darker, but a little bit less saturated. So then I'll go okay to that. Nah, that doesn't really match, but whatever. Maybe because I make it so dark, I should probably have it a bit lower, but that's okay. I'm going to hit escape and I can change it. But look at how it's beginning to have some life. And all I'm doing, guys, I'm not even putting gradients here. Some of you guys are probably playing around with gradients already, right? Because that gives it even another layer. And here, all I did is change the color of a couple of these. I haven't even started with the foursome that's down there. Another thing I can do, I can grab one of these little 8 groups. So I'm going to select the blue one. This is a group of 8, so that's pretty big, right? And I'm going to now, you can do this or not, but what I'm going to do now to this one is I am going to rotate it one more time, hold down the shift key, get myself another little intermittent kind of positioning right there. There we go, before I let go. Now, I actually can either go to the scale tool. I can just go to my regular boundaries tool, hold down my option and shift key, and maybe make this a little bit smaller, like, you know, have each one of these get smaller and smaller. And then let's change the general coloration of them to color would match here. Purple. And then I just double click on purple and let's make it slightly less saturated, right? And then I can go through that rigmarole again with these. So hopefully you guys are playing around and giving me options and ideas. Maybe I'll go to all the green ones, double click, and the entire group of green ones, I want them to have a gradient. So I'm going to go select my gradient tool. And when I don't have it selected, sorry, I dug in and then now I have to actually select the group of 4. And I'm going to go to my gradient tool. And when I try to apply a gradient on this, is it going to let me? To the group of 4? It might not. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to use a radial gradient tool, maybe. And I'm going to make it, okay, that's a bit too extreme. And now I'm going to go over here and choose that. It's not going to go to white. It's going to go maybe to a, what am I going to use? Blue, pink. Let me use pink. So I'm going to go to a little light pink on one end, and on the other end of my gradient. Come on. I'm going to choose a bit of a darker pink. So now my gradient, sorry, I did that wrong because what I just did is I created only one petal, but it's not so bad because if I save this swatch as a gradient, then I can apply it to the other petals, but I should have applied it at the same. I applied it to only one. Maybe I can change the center point of that gradient so that it moves like to there. I don't know, you know, you just play around. Create a new little gradient. And then if I want to save that gradient, here, I'm just kind of repeating stuff that I've taught you before. I want you to play with this yourselves, but now I have a gradient, a pink gradient that's been saved, right? I just created that gradient. So it should appear now over here. Oh, I thought I'd saved it. I thought I'd saved it. Gradient, select it. New gradient. Yeah, there it is. I hadn't saved it in, so there's my new gradient. And I probably shouldn't have had it be such a bright pink. Let me have it more lavendery. Okay, so that gradient's been modified. Cool. So now I have that gradient there, and now what I can do is I can select the rest of these and paint them with that gradient again. Right. Anyway, by the time I hit the escape key, I ended up painting only 2 of them, but I could have just selected all of them and filled them all with that gradient at the same time. Anyway, you guys are beginning to get the idea. When I hit escape, and maybe since I made those pink, I'm going to go back to having these be a little bit greenish. And of course, I could make them a bit less, more opaque, right? Give it a little bit more opacity. Those ended up having no opacity because my gradient, I forgot to make it opaque. Now these guys, maybe I can fill them with one of these patterns, which I haven't taught you about patterns yet, but these are all gradients, but there's this thing here called patterns, and it could be fun. I'll teach you more about other patterns later, but you can also fill with patterns. I'd rather fill it with a color, but there you go. I'm going to go with this little funky gradient that was already there. I could decide that I want to duplicate this. So even in my isolation mode, I can even like make another little copy of this by holding the Option key. I did it again. Back to the gradient that I wanted. Okay. And now I don't need to rotate it anymore. I just want to give me a copy. So I hold down the Option key and I get myself a copy right now. If I move it back to the center, and what I haven't shown you yet is how to move that. I can hold down the Shift key and the Option key at the same time. And then from the center, it's giving me another little option anyway. So, and so on and so forth. Time I say escape. Another thing I could put in here instead of another little flower is I could now grab a little circle, right? And I want to make it exactly in the middle. Put my hands in the middle, hold down the Option key, pull out a little circle that I know is exactly in the middle because I did it with the Option key and I intersected my center points. And now I fill it with yellow. What would it be like to eat? And let's make it also a teensy bit less big so it's not so stark in comparison to the rest. Show me your flowers. Don't forget to save every now and then. I want to show you one more thing before class is over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another artboard. So I'm going to select, click away so nothing is selected, to edit artboards, and click a new artboard. And I'm going to just show you this rather quickly, but then we will explore more of this next week, which has to do with color again. But right now, without the exploration, I'm going to select this whole thing. Oh, look at that. I forgot that this little center one that I created wasn't grouped to anything. So if I select from there, I'm going to make a mess. So I haven't like grouped it. There's all my groups and they're all separate. So if I'm going to begin to move everything at the same time, I can select everything now and make one big humongo group, right? So now that if I move this around, the whole thing moves together. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to select this group, hold down the Option key and drag it out here. And now I have, and drag it out here. And now I have two of them. Now you can see that once you create one element, how you can quickly begin to replicate, change, shape. What if I distort these in one way and the other one in another way, right? But right now I'm not even going there. I'm going to color. What if I want to color these with colors that I don't create? What if I hate the colors I've created? What if I don't want them to be opaque? What if I want them to have a different gradient, right? Well, let me show you. I'm going to select the bottom layers, the purpley-ish ones. To get only those, I have to double click, right? And then double click again. And now I've got this set of 4, and I'm going to shift and get this set of 4. So basically now I have both of the sets of 4 that are purpley-ish right now, right? And there's this group. This is the group that I've just sub-selected. And it was a little pinkish kind of gradient that I did, but it ended up at the bottom, so you really couldn't see it. And I go, let's change the color of this. And I go over here and I go, God, I'm tired of all these colors. We're going to get some new colors that I don't have to create. It's like, there must be an easier way to color things, especially for the color challenge that wouldn't know a matching or a harmony color if they or anything like that. You know how some people are natural dancers and others are not. Color is that way. Some people can't see it when it works or not. Well, guess what? Illustrator at the bottom of this panel has a thing called swatch libraries. So I'm going to click on that swatch libraries and it's like, ooh, let me see, what can I do here? Let me go to, oh, I wonder under nature, flower colors. Okay, I'm going to go to nature flower colors and click on that. And here is a new little window. I'm going to click on now. There's many that's giving me, ooh, other possible ideas of flower colors. And watch. I'm going to do this again. We're going to talk much more color next week, but watch. This is a library. This isn't in my palette yet. This is a library choice. And I go, maybe I want these 4 pinks, or I like that combination, or none of these do it for me. Let's go find another one. And then I go, what's under art history? Oh, what are the Renaissance colors? Let me see. Oh, I don't know. They're not very flowerish. Let's choose some others. So I start playing around until I find some good stuff, right? Okay, how about make this flower be this set of colors? All right, so here's the thing. And I'm pointing only to this so you see what's happening, not because you need to open this one. So I'm going to say, let me make a flower with, I don't know, these colors, these 2 sets. I want to combine these 2 sets. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to double click on this little folder looking thing. I'm going to double click. And then I'm going to choose this one too. And this one was Impressionism 4. See how it has a name? And this one's Impressionism 5. I'm going to double click on that one. When I double clicked on them, look what happened. I transferred those colors to my palette because I can't use them from here. In fact, if I'm done and I love the colors, I can even close this one. That was just I went to the library, picked up some colors, brought them home. And now this is home. This is now where I can use them from. So now I'm going to go, ooh, that's kind of cool. Let me color these, I don't know, that tone. And maybe I'm going to actually sub-select only one of these. Come on. Wow, why aren't you staying open? Hello, I'm having a glitch there. And I'm going to just select only one of these now. And I'm going to go and make that one, you know, kind of that color. These aren't so different than the ones that I had originally. I was hoping to do something totally different, but I didn't really choose colors that were that different. Let me go to the blue ones. Let's select the blue set. Okay, so I'm going to select this blue set and make them olive. Now it's beginning to change. Now I'm going to select these guys, double click until I have all my little orange gradients. Oh, how about I use gradients? I have new gradients? No, let me go look for gradients. Gradients. How about some bright gradients? Or foliage or fruits and vegetables? I don't know, let's try fruits and vegetable gradients. Okay, now these are a bit different. They don't come in folders, right? So watch. Every one I click will come over. So I go, I like this gradient, fig, and this one, plum, and this one, banana. And then when I go over here, I have just transferred each one of them. See that? So that's not the folder, it's just selecting it. So now maybe I want a green one. And I go over here and that's been transferred. So just selecting it does the job. So when there's not a folder, just making a choice. Eggplant. There it is, it's coming over. All right, I'm done choosing fruits and vegetables. I'll close that window again. And now I'm gonna apply some other gradients that I just got to this.
Diana, where did you find fruits and vegetables and stuff like that again?
Yeah. So I go over to my color palette that's been like the same old color, boring color palettes all this time. I head down. So this is like a little bookshelf thing. It's your swatch libraries. You click on that and then the gradients are under the word gradients. And then I went to fruits and vegetable gradients.
I see.
And that's how that pulled up. Now they're all showing up as straight lined gradients. And maybe that's not, you know, the best gradient choice right now. So I'm going to go to that gradient. Hold on, I need to get rid of that. I'm going to go to that gradient, double click that gradient. Oh, not double click, sorry. Gradient options. So I select this green one. I go to the gradient options. The window opened up right behind it. Sometimes the gradient up, the window opens in the place I left it before, and just tack it in here. So that it's easy.
And that was under the swatch libraries menu or one of the other ones?
This one, this was under fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the color palette and there's the little icons and you see there's a library. Keep your run your cursor down. See right there. Is that where you started? The swatch.
Swatch libraries.
Is that where you started to get?
Yeah.
And then you went to foods or whatever?
I went to food. This is gradients. All the gradients are in there. If you go to
gradients.
foods, earth tone, these are all
options.
full colors, right?
Yeah.
So you can go for pop or whatever I went. So here's celebration, and they're like really bright colors that I didn't feel like using. So,
yeah.
But then I go to my gradients and I maybe make it a radial gradient. I don't know. Maybe I want that. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't want it to go all the way to white. So I'd get rid of that. So I can modify my gradients as well. And this is something I didn't show you. Maybe I can modify that center point of this gradient. Right? Maybe I can make it be more or less. Maybe play around with these things till till the cows come home, is it? You can just modify things, change the center point, you know, and just keep playing. So basically, I'm kind of now flooding you with options because this is the time when it's called you got to start playing. I've taught you the basics of all these things. Now it's up to like exploration, right? Here I only changed the color of the couple of the colors, so they're not that different. But if I were to start choosing like bright colors or whatever, this could be really different. And you can even go, some people have colored every single petal different. I have one sample, it was a small class. Here's a sample from a couple of years ago in Bridge. Okay, I'll put it here. Where is it? Here's an example of this is a collection of everyone submitted their flowers and I put them here. The sample flower that I'm using before, obviously I made the same one, there it's me, but this is what everyone else came up with. You have your own idea of what's a good, someone kept working with the same petals, but other people made their own little petals and gave them their own bright colors and, you know, with the same idea. So go ahead and play around. Give me some flowers in the Padlet that are your happy flowers and your own. Now, when you make a shape that already starts with a sharp palette, like a sharp petal, that's all you get. But if you started with an image that had already a modified one and you copy that, you know, rotate that. Oh, and in this case, by the way, this is rotating from the middle, but this is an example of rotating from a different center. Let me just show you that really quickly. I'm going to get a quick other artboard here. So say that I create a petal. I'm just, oh, I don't want it to have that kind of a fill. Let's make it a clean fill to make the example easier to understand. So here I made a whatever funky shape. It's not really a good shape. There you go. It's a shape. Right. Now, if I go to rotate, and if I, instead of touching here, I touch kind of there, then when I do my rotation and hold, right, I got that. If I also reflect this, right, maybe I can shift it up. Sorry, that didn't work because I changed the center point because I'm doing too many things at the same time. Let me undo that. I clicked again and I moved their center point. And let me just first finish the center point rotation, or it just gets a little too complicated. I can reflect them later. So I put my center point outside, but that's the center. And I move and make my petals, you know, PC. I'm never gonna get accustomed to the PC. Okay, move and go, move and go, whatever. I make this a little bit less. I don't use the shift. See, I'm not using the shift right now. I'm just making a couple more. And then maybe in the middle of doing that, maybe I might have modified one a little bit and made it smaller or skinnier, you know, or whatever. But there, each, maybe one of them I rotate or I. And the thing is that the important thing is I don't rotate them on a different axis, because then it would kind of break it. As long as I keep rotating from the same axis, then here I can make that little perfect circle, right? And that's what where they're coming from, instead of having to all come from that exact center, right? And then I'll add a couple of smaller versions. I'll make another little shape that I'll put in here, and then I'll add it. And by the time I'm done, I'll have a perfect little real looking flower. If I keep creating some irregular petals that go in there and another one that goes in there. And then there's people who know flowers in and out and would make a petal that looks like an actual petal and give me a flower that looks like an actual flower. All right. Save this file, get me some screenshots, but please keep going, make some funky stuff, make some new flowers, and begin to put them in the Padlet. Okay, don't just stop with this one flower. Oh, I stopped sharing, but let me show. I already see one little flower has been posted. And I know it's past our ending time by 5 minutes, 4 minutes, but here we go. Gerard, thank you for posting your flower. Look at that. Cutie pie. Love it. Great shape. Well done. All right, post some flower. Oh, look at Saul. He's back there just working on his little landscape.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
I know, but guys, he was new a while ago. He's been taking my classes for, I would say at this point, every year and a half, but you saw, he pops in for some nuggets and I let him because come on, he's been in and out of my classes He'll come in, he'll sign in, he'll pop in, he's working. Then he'll go, oh, let me try this. Oh, you didn't say that this time, because guess what? Every time I teach, I'm using different examples. And sometime I'll show you more of one or the other. So he'll just kind of like keep having choices and expressions. And he just kind of, come on, it's free. He's working. He pops into the class, gets as much as he can, and look at where he's at, right? So not that you have to
Right.
repeat the class again and again. I'm not implying that. But there is a possibility of learning more. Like right now, you think you got everything you can get, but when you do it again, you hear some other things and you can ask at a different level, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, good job, look guys. Look at there, Jessica. Nice. You're going for autumn, fall color. I see a little radial gradient there. That's interesting because it's kind of off to the side with some purples. Anna. Nice, very clean and clear. It's so funny because when these things happen, I begin to get a feeling for, well, on the one hand, it has a little bit to do with your experience, but it also has to do a little bit with your like style, right? Because at first everyone was doing what I was doing, but then you could begin to play and it's kind of fun. All right, guys. I gotta stop saying guys. More and more I'm being, I have to work out of it, but I was observing a class today. We're doing evaluations. I was evaluating someone and she kept saying folks. And it's kind of weird. I've never said that word, but it is much more inclusive. So I'm going to try to adopt the folks instead of the guys. And I don't know, I've never used that word, but you know, we all got to learn. They, them, folks, it all works better. So
At least you're not saying dude.
I'm not, but the guys doesn't work. It's like, okay, guys, just go, okay, folks. I don't know how to figure it out. But anyway, we all live and learn, right? You guys learn Illustrator. I gotta learn inclusivity in my speech. We're all learning. All right. See you guys in a week. See you, folks. Folks, I'll see you in a week. And some of you tomorrow, right? Any questions? Did I leave anyone hanging on something? No,
Nope, it's all good.
you're all good.
Diana, I noticed
Yes.
when you switch yours to show more opacity or have less opacity, you could see all the layers. And mine, I feel like it just made everything the same level of opacity, and so I couldn't see through. Should I have isolated one section?
Let me go to my sample here for a minute. Here we go. And yeah, when I shifted opacities, I actually chose, I went in the sub-select mode, right? Let me see which
Okay.
one. I think they all, I don't have one that without the opacities. Now, well, here's an example. This one I didn't give opacities to, right? So say that I were to now select all of these, but deselect that center. Okay, so then I deselected that with the option key, by the way. And now say that I were to now do that good old rotate to this thing and get myself a copy. And let's just rather quickly give it another color. Okay, so now I have two of the same thing, right? Oh, actually, I didn't deselect the center. Oh, well, okay. And I didn't even hold down the shift key, so it didn't stay in the movement. Okay, never mind. I forgot to click my center point. That's why it clicked on itself. Never mind. Say that here, I give all of them the same opacity. Like I selected everything and I give them the same opacity, right? They begin to, since I have two different colors, they begin to kind of, I guess that's not all because I left these two out. Let me undo that again. See how I could tell that two weren't. Let me just do that again. Now, if I select the same opacity for everything, then it still looks very uniform, right? So what I had done, other than different colors, is try to sub-select by group. I didn't group these well, so if I go over here, it's a little bit harder because they're all separate. But let me see if I can quickly click. I'm holding the shift key, guys, right? And I'm selecting anything that's pink. Fortunately, I had different colors. Good, and then I'll group them, which I believe you can make a group from here. I'm not sure. No, these are clipping masks. You can't, I haven't talked about clipping masks yet, but I was wondering if there was a choice to group there, but there wasn't. Okay, so now I'm grouping them. And then I'm gonna group these. Just because I forgot to do it when I was giving you the example, and it's just much easier to operate with these things when they're grouped. Okay, so now I have my pinkies and my yellowies or oranges or whatever. If I try to sub-select and give this one maybe 64%, then I select this one and I give this one 70%. But on top of that, these colors are not helping much, make it a bit more opaque. These light colors don't help too much. If on top of that, I vary and do gradients, you should like begin to, each one of these was like, this is just one little blob, but over here I had 1, 2 groups of 2, groups of 3. So each group, I gave it a little bit of a different flavor. So by the time you get them all on top of each other, these aren't that differently flavored because they're actually the whole set, versus here I had made 2 and then 2 and then 4, so I can modify them here by making a set of 8. That whole layer looks the same, but here I had the flexibility of drilling down and drilling down and drilling down and drilling down. I mean, let's move all the way in, drilling down, keep drilling and clicking until I can really isolate one more time, just a set of 2, which is the power of having not done what I did on the right side, which is I'm going to grab all my 8 petals, but I'm going to actually grab little pieces of it each time, because then I can give it much more variety. I had one more thing. I did have the little bit of a stroke on all of them because that helped give me some separation. If you don't have a stroke at all, sometimes, like if I were to grab this whole thing now and say, I don't want any of it to have a stroke, I can do that all at once and take all the strokes out. And I say to none. Well, the colors here are so distinct, but sometimes the stroke, when you have similar colors, help give you that distinct shape. Now, because these I already chose different colors, I guess putting the stroke on or not didn't really make much of a difference, but there is more definition when you have a stroke. If you make it gentle and small enough, it doesn't bug you and it helps define each petal. Anyway, little tricks and stuff like that. But yeah, we can fill this with patterns and with textures, right? I haven't shown you textures yet, but there's other stuff you can put in here that will give it more like a feel of a petal. Yeah, but definitely instead of having a group of 8, go down to the groups of 2s and 4s and begin to change that, and then that you get much more texture or depth.
Got it.
Does that help? Did you try it while I was talking and get any different
No.
result?
I eventually like played with it. I ended up moving around the layers, just put different ones in front, and I did change the colors in groups of 4s and 2s. I think it was just that very first time, maybe you had done it in 2 groups of 4 or whatever, and I had done it all as one. And so when I
Got it.
turned the opacity on, I wanted to see sort of like the geometric overlay that you were seeing, but I wasn't. But now I see why.
Okay, got it.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
I'm digging into this gradient. You're welcome. All right. I know that this was putting together a lot of what we've been, learning. And that some things you remember and others like, hey, you showed me this 4 weeks ago. That's okay. We'll start practicing more, slightly more complex things, and it'll all come together, right? For now, just give me some good old flowers in the Padlet. Let me save this, and gonna back out. This is all in my BDI. You guys save whichever way you're going to save, but I'm going to slowly back out, make sure everything is saved. Because when I close the class and run off to do something else, I tend to forget to disconnect from BDI, and that totally messes me up the next time. So I'm just doing this very methodically. And disconnect, cut out. It says it's done. Shut it down. 11. 10 steps and we're out. All right. Oh, I forgot I was still sharing. Okay.
Thank you.
Sayonara. Guys, some of you tomorrow, some in a week. Bye, folks.